Naruto Reborn Wind Shadow. Attack the Country of Fire in the beginning chapter 221 to 240. Shukaku's proactive appearance was definitely beyond Rasa's expectations. Not only Rasa, but also Son Goku and Seiken, upon seeing Shukaku appear before them, had solemn expressions, their voices tinged with a hint of nostalgia. Long time no see, Shukaku. What, have you, like that guy's son, also succumbed to humans? Emerging from his seal for the first time, Shukaku, far from displaying the typical irascibility seen in the plot, spoke with remarkable composure. Son, Seiken, I have no interest in reminiscing with you. The only reason I've appeared here is to tell you something. As he spoke, Shukaku's plus-shaped pupils focused on Rasa. Although this human is as detestable as any other, if we tailed beasts were forced to choose a human to trust, this human would indeed be the best choice at present. Upon hearing this, Seiken burst into wild laughter. Shukaku, you've truly succumbed to humans. You are a disgrace to us tailed beasts. Son Goku, on the other hand, wore a thoughtful expression as he asked. Why? It's simple. I understand this human better than you do. From the moment this human first extracted my chakra, I've been observing him from within his Jinchuriki. Furthermore, I've witnessed many things he's done. Although I still detest humans, I can confirm one thing. This human, and even Sunagaku, have no need to enslave us to gain power. Why? Son Goku asked the same question again. You should be able to sense it, right? The energy contained within this human's body and this forest is different from our chakra, even different from natural energy. They call it sage art energy. I see. Son Goku wasn't a fool. If Rasa and the Sunagaku ninja were using a power completely different from chakra, then they indeed wouldn't need the tailed beast's power. Of course, Son Goku couldn't be certain. Seiken voiced the question in Son Goku's mind. Then why do you still need our tailed beast chakra? Rasa stated very frankly. Because the so-called sage art energy is transformed from chakra and natural energy. I need your tailed beast chakra as seeds to transform them into trees that can emit sage art energy, increasing the concentration of sage art energy in this world. Will this have any impact on his tailed beasts? I'm sorry, I don't know. Rasa's candor left both Son Goku and Seiken somewhat stunned. Because I haven't done it yet. The sage art energy that has formed this dragon oasis mainly uses the dragon vein chakra from Rorin and the demon monster's chakra from the land of demons. Son Goku was shocked. In other words, you haven't even used Shukaku's chakra? But didn't Shukaku just say? Because the tailed beast chakra I need is enormous. Given the state of old man Bunpuku at the time, he couldn't support me extracting that much tailed beast chakra. I see. At this point, the gathered tailed beasts had an initial impression of Rasa. How to put it? Not bad. Cherishes his companions' lives, is honest, and possesses great power. Although he also needs their chakra, he hasn't resorted to coercive measures. Perhaps this is the most important thing to the tailed beasts. Tailed beasts are also living beings, they also need respect. However, they also had some doubts, namely, whether this so-called sage art energy would really not affect them. Just as Son Goku was hesitating, Shukaku suddenly spoke. Since you can't be at ease, then let me be the first test subject. Quote exclamation mark quote. Upon hearing these words, not only were the two-tailed beasts shocked, looking at Shukaku with disbelief, but Rasa was also taken aback, even harboring some doubts in his heart. Why was Shukaku suddenly so proactive? However, he soon learned the answer. Shukaku looked at the two-tailed beasts and Rasa before him, the corners of his mouth lifting into a triumphant smile as he said. Haven't you sensed it yet? My chakra? Dash 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 dash. In the plot, when Naruto mastered Kurama's chakra, there was a special training, which was to face the dark side of himself. Where does this dark side come from? It not only includes the discrimination encountered as a Jinchuriki, which turned into resentment, but also the evil will within the tailed beast's own chakra. For example, Kurama is known as the embodiment of hatred. But when Kurama was first created by the Sage of Six Paths, it was also a cute little fox. It was influenced by the hateful emotions of being captured, betrayed, and used by humans for thousands of years that it became what it is now. Emotion is also a kind of mental power, and also a kind of power. Hanataba's Kagura Shingen has the ability to sense this kind of emotion. And the other tailed beasts are no exception, they are also affected by this evil power. Although from the perspective of power, this evil emotion has a negligible impact on them, but in terms of spirit, it will still make the tailed beasts irritable. But at this moment, both Son Goku and Seiken could feel the tranquility of Shukaku's chakra. Even Rasa only noticed it after Shukaku's reminder. Sure enough, compared to the Shukaku in Gaara's body in the future timeline, this Shukaku in Bunpuku's body is obviously much more peaceful, and the chakra is not so violent. It seems that when Rasa absorbed Shukaku's chakra, although it did not form a chakra fruit, it still had some impact on Shukaku. Of course, Bunpuku's influence also played a big role. However, all in all, with Shukaku taking the lead, things will be much easier next. Dash 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 dash. Fire Country, Konoha Village. Minato didn't have to wait long, as the Hokage's guards, Yamashiro Aoba, Shiranui Genma, and Tatami Rado brought good news from Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and Kirigakure respectively. The 3 Kage from these 3 villages all expressed interest in Konoha's proposed 5 Kage summit. What Minato was more concerned about was the news from Iwagakure. That is, in this incident of the Sanagakure's tailed beast rampage, it seemed that Iwagakure was also plotted against. This is definitely the best possible news, making Minato increasingly confident in successfully initiating this 5 Kage summit. Next, he only needs to persuade the most troublesome Kazekage of Sanagakure. After this news came out, the higher-ups of Konoha were increasingly satisfied with this new 4th Hokage. Except for one person, Konoha, root headquarters. Danzo, who had once again lost the position of Hokage, had a gloomy expression like never before. Minato is too young. This means that as long as there are no accidents, Danzo, who is already 60 years old, has completely lost the chance to touch the position of Hokage. Would Danzo be willing to accept this? Of course not. Otherwise, he wouldn't be Danzo. Thinking of this, he slowly got up and issued an order. Go and contact the demigod of Omegakure. This old man is going to pay him a visit. The Land of Valleys. It is a country with very little presence in the world of Naruto, so much so that its existence cannot even be found on the map. Located in the crevice between the Land of Earth and the Land of Lightning, its land area is very small, appearing as just a black dot on the map. This small land area means that there are not many residents living here, but it would be a big mistake to underestimate this country, because this country has medical technology that even Tsunade, one of the Sannin, marvels at. Since Tsunade left Konoha with her disciple Shizune more than a year ago, she met a man not long after. This man is named Victor, and he claims to hate the wars between ninjas and has been researching medical ninjutsu to stimulate human cell activity in order to treat those who have been disabled by war. After hearing that Tsunade, known as the #1 medical ninja in the ninja world, had left Konoha, he boldly came to Tsunade and invited her to the Land of Valleys to study this technology together. Tsunade originally refused, but Victor's dream moved her. Then, she brought Shizune to the Land of Valleys to jointly study the technology of regenerating human body tissues. It must be said that although the medical technology of the Land of Valleys is very advanced, it is still very lacking in the research of medical ninjutsu and chakra. Tsunade's arrival made up for this, which allowed the medical ninjutsu of the Land of Valleys to develop rapidly. It is a pity that a year has passed, but their research goal, to automatically repair body tissues by activating human DNA, still has no signs of success. And Tsunade is about to leave. The reason is simple. Tsunade received a message from Jiraiya, knowing that Minato had become the fourth Hokage, and requesting her to return to help. Don't think that Tsunade left Konoha in anger a year ago. How could she not have feelings for the village? This is the village established by her grandfather, Hashirama Senju. And now, the old man has stepped down and Minato has taken office, allowing Tsunade to see the opportunity to change Konoha. Of course, on the other hand, Jiraiya also made it clear in the letter the threats Konoha is currently facing, requiring a powerful ninja like Tsunade to be in charge. The Land of Valleys originally planned to see Tsunade off, but Tsunade refused. The two masters and disciples left the Land of Valleys quietly. On a building shrouded in mist, towering on the edge of a canyon. A short, middle-aged man knelt on one knee in front of a man dressed as a monk. The monk looked very gentlemanly, wearing a white feathered robe, with a white dining table next to him, with red wine and desserts on it. In other words, it still failed. Even with the help of this Tsunade. The monk's words made the man break out in cold sweat. Lord Jigen, although it failed, it was not without gain. I have discovered that the key to artificial humans is not technology, but the cells of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. As long as you give me Hashirama Senju's cells, I will definitely be able to create an artificial human that will satisfy you, Lord Jigen. That's right, this monk is a Shiki Otsutsuki, who was ambushed by Kagaya Otsutsuki thousands of years ago and then parasitized on a monk named Jigen. In these thousands of years, Ashiki Otsutsuki has tried countless times to revive, but just like the host he parasitized, Jigen could not bear his huge chakra. In these thousands of years, he has looked for countless new containers, but all have failed. So, Jigen began to place his hope on the technology of artificial humans. He wants to create a container that can perfectly withstand his chakra. It is a pity that there has been no success so far. Hashirama Senju's cells. Victor, do you think I am capable of taking the power of their first Hokage from the hands of Konoha village now? Jigen did not hide his weakness, because even so, he was still much stronger than Victor in front of him. Victor looked even more terrified. But if that's the case. Alright, at least it's not possible now. Then. I know what you want to say. That Kazekage of Sunagakur is also not possible. It is not appropriate for me to show up now. Kagaya's son scattered the Ten Tails chakra throughout the ninja world. Even if I take action, there is no way to replant the god tree in a short time and obtain the chakra fruit, which is meaningless to me. I understand. Although Victor was a little unwilling, he still nodded. Alright, step back. Yes. As Victor left, Jigen looked at the sky above his head, with hatred on his face. Kagaya, you guy, wait, when I revive, I will definitely turn you into my nourishment. But, speaking of which, I really have to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have discovered that the energy of this world is so special. Even you can reach such a level. If I devour this planet, maybe one day, I can reach Shibai's level, get rid of this pitiful body, and become a god. But at this moment, suddenly, Jigen suddenly sensed something, and the mark on his body open black lens bracket karma close black lens bracket involuntarily activated. His whole body was covered with black stripes, and one eye also turned into a strange shape, black eye. What's going on? Under the observation of Jigen's black eye, a part of the huge chakra ball representing the 10 tails in this world actually separated from the main body like a bubble. At this moment, it was not only Jigen who sensed all this. Raichi Cave, the white snake sage also suddenly raised his head, using his snake tongue to sense the energy changes outside. This startled the three girls serving beside him. What's wrong? White Snake Sage Sama, the White Snake Sage slowly said. Did he still get to this point? He started to attack the tailed beasts. In that case, Hagoromo won't sit idly by. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Mount Myoboku, the great toad sage in his sleep also woke up from his dream. The world has completely moved in an unknown direction. Hagoromo, what choice will you make? This confused Fukasaku and Shima. What's going on? Why did the great toad sage suddenly wake up? Isn't the old guy confused? What nonsense is he talking about? Konoha Ninja Village. On this day, Kushina Uzumaki, the wife of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, and Makoto Uchiha, the wife of the Uchiha clan leader, both felt nauseous on the same day. The fate must be guided to the intended trajectory. In Sunagakure village, Dragon Oasis. Shukaku, who had his chakra sucked dry and shrunk from a height of 50 or 60 meters to the size of a human, as well as Son Goku and Saiken, also witnessed the appearance of a miracle. After Shukaku's chakra fruit was injected into the god tree of Dragon Oasis, the entire forest began to grow and expand rapidly, like boiling water. And Rasa at this moment also sensed the change in the huge sphere representing the Ten Tails chakra. It was not the purification of the Ten Tails chakra as expected, but a new sphere representing Shukaku's chakra was separated from the Ten Tails chakra. As for Shukaku, apart from having his chakra almost sucked dry, from the surface, there seemed to be no difference, but when Bunpuku, as the Jinchuriki, used Shukaku's chakra again, he entered a unique mode. Very similar to Naruto's Nine Tails chakra mode in the plot, the One-Tailed chakra mode covered with chakra in the color of the violet flower pattern on Shukaku's body. With Shukaku as a precedent, both Son Goku and Saiken were less resistant to having their chakra absorbed. However, after obtaining the chakra fruits representing Son Goku and Saiken, Rasa only integrated Saiken's chakra fruit into the divine tree of Dragon Oasis. This triggered another bout of frantic growth in Dragon Oasis, directly expanding from a diameter of 5 kilometers to 15 kilometers, and it was still growing. At this rate, in just 1 year, the villagers of Sunagakure should be able to discover the existence of Dragon Oasis. As for why he didn't integrate Son Goku's chakra fruit. Firstly, taking so much chakra from the Ten Tails chakra at once could easily cause too violent a reaction. Although these reactions may have already occurred, Rasa still expressed a restrained attitude. Secondly, he would eventually have to return the Four Tails Jinchuriki to Iwagakure. He didn't want Son Goku to activate the Four Tails chakra mode and strengthen Iwagakure's power. Finally, Rasa planned to integrate Son Goku's chakra fruit into the divine tree of his Yomi world. Currently, due to the barrier between the two worlds, and unbeknownst to even the Sage of Six Paths, Rasa had already gathered the chakra of Shukaku, Isobu, and Kokuo in his Shukaku space. Adding Son Goku, that made four-tailed beasts. As for why he didn't integrate Saiken's chakra, it was because Saiken was relatively easy for Rasa to obtain. In the future timeline, the Six Tails Jinchuriki was in a semi-wild state, making it relatively easy to capture, as was Chome, who resided in Takigakure. That only left Matabi, Yuki, and Kurama. In that case, even if the Sage of Six Paths were to attack him now, he could directly go to the future timeline and capture these tailed beasts. By then, having gathered the power of all 9 tailed beasts, Rasa would at least gain the true power to dance in this world. As Rasa integrated Son Goku's chakra fruit into the divine tree of the Yomi world, the Yomi world also underwent new changes. Originally, after Isobu's chakra was integrated, the world had become a giant lake. As its area rapidly expanded, it began to turn into a giant water ball, as if it were a planet entirely formed of water. At the core of the water planet, scorching magma flowed. With the fusion of water and fire, a layer of rock, like the Earth's crust, appeared and began to envelop the magma. The originally still lake, after turning into a water ball and possessing the power of flowing magma, actually began to rotate slowly like a real planet. This brought about changes in the other substances of the entire world. The flowing lake water began to exhibit tides. The wind in the air began to have warm and cold currents. The clouds in the sky began to show natural phenomena such as rain and snow. The emergence of the hydrological cycle caused dust and floating rocks in the air to fall, plunging onto the water planet, and the rudiments of land also began to appear on the surface of the water planet. Interesting. Seeing this scene, Rasa became more and more convinced that when the power of all 9 tailed beasts was integrated into this world, Perhaps it would not only become a real world, but even life might appear in this world. As for Rasa, after absorbing the chakra of Son Goku, Kokuo, and Seiken, his personal power increased by a huge level. In addition to the surge in senjutsu energy and the tremendous improvement in physique. On the basis of the original senjutsu Kekkei Genkei, magnet release, wood release, sand control, wind release, and water release, he directly mastered lava release, boil release, and acid release. In addition, he also remastered earth release and fire release. In other words, the current Rasa had reacquired the other 5 elemental releases except for lightning release. He also possessed 6 senjutsu Kekkei Genkei. Logically speaking, the current Rasa was already invincible in this ninja world, but as he controlled more and more power, Rasa slowly realized that it was not enough. Although he had mastered so much power, these powers were still at the same level. If explained from the perspective of chakra, it was Kekkei Genkei. And from the perspective of senjutsu energy, it was senjutsu Kekkei Genkei. But don't forget, above Kekkei Genkei, there were even stronger Kekkei Tota and Kekkei Mora. Then above senjutsu Kekkei Genkei, could he also develop corresponding senjutsu Tota and senjutsu Mora? It seemed that what Tamaguchi Haim said was right. He really needed to slow down first and thoroughly understand the power he possessed. If he could develop the corresponding senjutsu Tota and senjutsu Mora, then he could truly have the power to fight against the Sage of Six Paths, and even the Otsutsuki clan. Before that, since he already possessed so much power, without developing senjutsu Tota and senjutsu Mora, it was still necessary to enhance his attack power in another special way. What was this method? That was the Rasengan that Rasa had given up on. However, Rasa thought more. He wanted to develop a tailed beast ball based on senjutsu Kekkei Genkei, secret technique, sage art, avatar technique. He called it senjutsu ball. Just as Rasa was developing the senjutsu ball in the desert, the arrival of 2 pieces of news forced Rasa to put down his practice and return to the village once again. Land of Wind, Sunagakur. As time passed, the magnificent reconstruction and development of Sunagakur was still proceeding in an orderly manner. On the land of the new Sunagakur, which had been bombarded by tailed beast balls, traces of construction could be seen everywhere. The excavation of the Ryusa River was also very smooth, having already dug hundreds of kilometers. This allowed Sunagakur to completely escape the influence of the tailed beast disturbance and begin to embark on a path of rapid development. Every Sunagakur villager's face was filled with a smile of hope for the future. Kazekage office. The Ino-Shika-Cho trio, who had come from the land of fire and had been resting in the waiting room for more than an hour, still had expressions of shock on their faces. As the leader of the trio and the recently reappointed Hokage advisor, Nara Shikaku said with a serious expression. "You've all seen it, right?" "Yeah." Yamanaka Inoichi nodded. Judging from the area currently under construction in Sunagakur, Sunagakur's area has already exceeded our Konoha's by 3 or 4 times. If it continues to develop like this, Sunagakur surpassing our Konoha is only a matter of time. Moreover, with that Kazekage in charge, it probably won't be long. This is really a headache. Akamichi Choza patted his friend's back and said with an optimistic smile. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Minato is doing well now, isn't he? The 3 looked at each other and smiled. Indeed, at least Minato had united the entire Konoha for the first time since becoming Hokage. Even the Uchiha clan had expressed their welcome to Minato becoming Hokage. Just then, the door to the waiting room was pushed open, and Maki walked in. Come with me, the Kazekage is waiting for you. Kazekage's office. At this moment, everything was very quiet. In such a sensitive moment, with the sudden arrival of Konoha ninjas, it was impossible for Sunagakur ninjas to give them a warm reception. Shikaku and the others understood this, so they stood there quietly, waiting for the Kazekage's reply. Waiting for Rasa to speak were also Yekora, Mikawa, Shinga, and the others beside him. Soon, Rasa understood the intentions of these Konoha ninjas. Besides being somewhat surprised, he had no other thoughts. All right. I already understand your intentions, Rasa said, handing the scroll to Mikawa and the others beside him. Seeing that Rasa didn't intend to continue, Shikaku, who was the leader, took the initiative to ask. Then, I wonder if the Kazekage is willing to participate in this 5-cage summit hosted by our Hokage. Rasa looked at Shikaku as if he were an idiot. Are you kidding me? Do you know how much damage Sunagakure suffered and how many people died in this tailed beast rebellion? Your young Hokage wants us to give up with a few light words. Do you think that's possible? The Sunagakure villagers beside him cooperated by showing angry expressions. Shikaku had expected this, of course. He said calmly. Of course, I know, but that's precisely why the war shouldn't continue, because more people will die if it does. Our Konoha is also a victim of this war. Moreover, if the Kazekage has any conditions, you can bring them up. This 5-cage summit is meant to allow the 5 great ninja villages to talk openly and end this war completely. I don't have the time or the mood to talk openly with others. If your Hokage wants Sunagakure to join the 5-cage summit, he should first show us some sincerity that will move us. Shikaku looked at Rasa, seemingly understanding his meaning. I understand. I will report to the Hokage. However, there is one thing I want to confirm. I wonder if the Kazekage can give me an answer. What is it? I wonder what the situation is with the 4 tails, 5 tails, and 6 tails now. I don't mean anything else, but since the first Hokage established the military balance of the 5 great ninja villages by distributing the tailed beasts have been a symbol of the ninja villages' military strength. If this balance is disrupted too severely, I'm afraid it will bring unnecessary adverse effects. Rasa glanced at this Konoha intelligence officer and asked. Do you think I'm afraid? Shikaku said calmly. Of course, I know the Kazekage isn't afraid, but wouldn't it be a good thing if we could avoid unnecessary trouble? Moreover, with the Kazekage's current power, he should also need the tailed beasts to deter other ninja villages. What you said is not bad. Our Sunagakure really doesn't need the power of the tailed beasts now, but even though only the 4 tails is left, it won't be easy for Iwagakure to take it back. Only the 4 tails is left. Rasa glanced at Shikaku with disdain and said slowly. Yes, your Konoha spies in our Sunagakure should have passed on the information about that battle, right? Quote. Shikaku's face was slightly embarrassed. For that last tailed beast ball, the 5 tails consumed its life force and died directly. Even if I wanted to capture it, I couldn't. As for the 6 tails Jinchuriki, although I maintained his life force at the time, the 6 tails was sent to our Sunagakure to make it go berserk. Do you think the Jinchuriki could have survived in that situation? So, now only the 4 tails is still alive and well. Shikaku and the other 2 looked at each other, not doubting Rasa's answer, because, based on the intelligence, this was indeed a reasonable answer. I understand. Thank you for your explanation, Kazekage. Then, we won't disturb you any further. We will tell the Hokage your reply and await his response. Okay, Maki, see them off. After Maki led the 3 away, Mikawa finally asked. Kazekage-sama, what are your thoughts? Are you planning to attend the 5-cage summit? What are your thoughts? Rasa asked back. Mikawa thought for a moment and replied. If it weren't for you, Kazekage-sama, Sunagakure would have suffered heavy casualties, if not perished, in this tailed beast rebellion, instead of being like this now. So, from Sunagakure's perspective, I certainly can't swallow this anger, but the village really needs time now. Rasa nodded. What about you? Yekora, who was asked, said somewhat unhappily. I feel the same way, but what annoys me is, what qualifications does this Konoha Hokage have to initiate the 5-cage summit in his name? If anyone should initiate it, it should be our Sunagakure. Shinga. Kazekage-sama, Mikawa-sama is right. Our Sunagakure really needs time now. As long as we give Sunagakure some time, and based on my understanding of the other ninja villages, they won't be our match by then, without even needing a war. Yes, that's what I think too. Whether from Sunagakure's perspective or Rasa's personal perspective, they needed a period of peace and stability to develop Sunagakure and calm down to cultivate. However, it won't be so easy to get our Sunagakure to agree. It depends on their sincerity. Yes, everyone nodded. Alright, let's put this matter aside for now. It's good that you're all here. Come with me to a place. Sunagakure, inside a certain huge courtyard. Rasa brought Yekora, Mikawa, and Shinga here. As soon as they entered, they saw a huge ship and a huge machine similar to a train. That's right, this was where Rasa had let Shino from the Sky Ninja Corps and Kanra from the Takumi village develop and change the port transportation around Sunagakur. These guys had been in Sunagakur for a long time, and Sunagakur had always given them enough financial support to develop their research. But after so long, they still hadn't created any real objects. It wasn't until Sunagakur's Quicksand River plan came out that these guys worried about becoming useless. In just a few days, they created these two big guys. Seeing Rasa bring Yekora and the others, Shino and Kanra, who were the leaders, greeted them nervously. During this time living in Sunagakur, they had witnessed the battle between Rasa and the three-tailed beasts. They knew how terrifying the man in front of them was. Greetings, Kazekage-sama. Rasa looked at the huge wooden boat and the train the size of a house in front of him and said, "You guys are fast. Such a big machine, and you built it in 5 days." Kanra and the 4 celestial gods behind him stiffened, but Shino said calmly, "Kazekage-sama, it's not that we didn't want to build it before, but we encountered a problem. Because we couldn't bring it up to you, Kazekage-sama, we delayed until now. Fortunately, we have now solved it." "Oh, what problem?" "Power. The ship and train we built both use the tailed beast's chakra as power." As Shino spoke, Rasa remained calm, but Yi Kang, Mi Chuan, and Shinji behind him were shocked. Even though Sunagakur now possessed the power to face tailed beasts without fear, many people still regarded them with deep apprehension. As for Rasa, he had known all of this for a long time. Not only due to his sensory abilities, but also because the Anbu ninjas were not to be trifled with. Especially after the recent tailed beast disturbance, Maki conducted a rigorous review of the Anbu he managed. "Tell me your thoughts." Shino nodded, pointing to the ship and the train. "Ever since we met Lord Kazekage last time, we have been trying to build them. Initially, we envisioned using wind release as a power source, just like ships at sea rely on wind to move forward. However, we quickly realized that our idea was somewhat naive. The resistance of sand is much higher than that of water. While wind release could indeed propel a ship across the desert, the efficiency was too low, and the chakra consumption was enormous, bringing our research to a standstill. It was during the recent tailed beast disturbance that we witnessed the power of the 5 tails Jinchuriki. The power of steam emanating from his body gave us inspiration." Shino spoke, as Rasa listened with some amazement. "We remembered Lord Kazekage mentioning the steam engine when he introduced us to the transportation tool called the train, using steam as power." Rasa eagerly asked, "Oh, did you succeed?" Shino smiled and nodded. "Not entirely to your expectations." He then turned to Guanla behind him and said, "Mr. Guanla, please show Lord Kazekage the results of our research during this period." "Yes." Guanla nodded, and the 4 celestial beings behind him immediately moved. As Rasa watched in admiration, a scene that seemed very familiar and nostalgic appeared. As white steam billowed from the chimneys of the giant ship and the house-like train, emitting a sharp roar, the wheels beneath the ship and train slowly began to turn. At that moment, Rasa sincerely admired the 2 men and applauded. "Truly remarkable. It is our honor to receive your praise." Yi Kang, Mi Chuan, and Shinji looked at the ship and the large house moving on their own without human power, their faces filled with amazement. "What is the current speed?" "Currently, because these are the initial prototypes, the speed can only reach 10 km per hour. This speed was quite slow, because in the world of ninjas, with the enhancement of chakra, ninjas could travel at least 30 km per hour. However, for Rasa, it was already excellent. This world was not just for ninjas, but also for many ordinary people. Not bad. What about the power system? Please follow me. Under Shino's guidance, the group boarded the ship and entered the cabin. What they saw was a variety of complex machinery. Of course, it was only at the level of the steam age, with various gears, bearings, and steel pipes. Connecting them was a black box in the center, engraved with various incantations. "Did you use this to collect the tailed beast's chakra?" "Yes, we must thank Mr. Guanla for this. The Takumi Ninja Village does have unique memories in this regard. We call this box the Power Box. It can store the tailed beast's chakra and then release it through these seals, converting it into steam to drive all the machinery here and make this ship move." The tailed beast's chakra is indeed incredible. We only collected a little, but it brought incredible power. However, there is also a problem because of this. What problem? Although we collected some of the tailed beast's chakra, it was only a little, after all, it's a tailed beast. Rasa interrupted him. Don't worry, I'm not that stingy. Moreover, your performance has indeed satisfied me. However, the chakra you mentioned is indeed a problem. The five tails is already dead, and even if it were alive, the tailed beast would not willingly. Suddenly, Rasa thought of something, and his eyes lit up. I have a solution, Rasa said, taking out a scroll. Summoning technique. As the white mist dissipated, a creature very similar to the five tails, but much smaller in size, appeared in front of everyone. This is. Shino was shocked when he saw the small five tails, and a hint of greed flashed in his eyes. Guanla and the others were startled. Five tails. No, this is not the five tails. Simply put, it's just a puppet I created. After capturing the five tails, I extracted a portion of its chakra and sealed it inside, turning it into a pseudo five tails. Although the amount of chakra is not comparable, it is still no problem to use it as a source of chakra for the power box. Shino narrowed his eyes, while Guanla said in surprise. Lord Kazekage, may I observe it? No problem. Guanla walked over and observed carefully, repeatedly saying, incredible. Then, he seemed to think of something, and his body trembled slightly, clenching his fists tightly. Finally, under everyone's incredulous gaze, he knelt down on one knee to Rasa. Lord Kazekage, please forgive me for deceiving you. These words shocked everyone, and Shino's expression changed drastically. Rasa calmly asked, deceiving? What did you deceive me about? The reason why I joined Sunagaku was for a different purpose. Next, Guanla explained his purpose of wanting to use Sunagaku's tailed beast to revive his ninja village's founder, Seimei. This surprised Mi Chuan, Yi Kang, and Shinji. However, seeing Rasa's calm gaze, they understood. As for the four subordinates behind Guanla, the four celestial beings, their faces were filled with horror. Lord Guanla, you are betraying our Takumi ninja village. No, this is not betrayal, but choosing to say everything for the sake of the Takumi ninja village and our country of Takumi, because after the battle between Lord Kazekage and the tailed beast, I have already understood that even if we really use the tailed beast's chakra to revive Lord Seimei, the revived Lord Seimei cannot be Lord Kazecage's opponent. The four celestial beings were stunned, and then understood what their boss meant. And the events in the land of demons have also shown me another way to revitalize our Takumi ninja village and the country of Takumi besides reviving Lord Seimei. This time, the four celestial beings were completely stunned. Yes, if it was really for the sake of the Takumi ninja village and the country of Takumi, the current situation in the land of demons was the most suitable path for them to take. The experience in Sunagaku during this period also completely opened the eyes of the four celestial beings, making them understand how terrifying the five great ninja villages really were. With the power of the Takumi ninja village, even if Lord Seimei was revived, there was no hope of resisting. Rasa looked at this somewhat unexpected scene and extended his hand to Guanla. Guanla, your honesty is very timely. From this moment on, I can forgive everything you have done before, and the rewards I give you will not be less. After speaking, Rasa turned to look at Shino. So, what about you? Mr. Shino, would you like to say something? Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. What could Shino say? Compared to Kabuto, the cunning Shino still wanted to play dumb, but Rasa revealed that he had sent the Anbu to investigate the empty ninja village and the existence of the zero-tailed. Shino's expression became even more gloomy. So, does that mean Lord Kazekage, you already knew? What do you think? Although I am very disappointed by your continued dishonesty, I am still willing to give you a chance for the sake of your talent, but you must use other things to earn my trust. Shino clenched his fists tightly, and under the cold gazes of Rasa, Pakura, and Mikawa, a smile finally returned to his face, and he knelt on one knee. It seems I have no choice. Then, greetings, Lord Kazekage. Kazekage's office. Rasa looked at the two scrolls that Shino handed over, his face full of surprise. Because one of the scrolls contained the method developed by the empty ninja village to control the zero-tailed, and the other scroll contained Shino's pride, the power to activate the body, including a series of medical ninjutsu. Mikawa, who had just witnessed everything, said with some uncertainty. Lord Kazekage, are we just going to let that guy named Shino go like that? Rasa sneered. Of course not. Mikawa, leave this guy to you. After squeezing out his value, give him a good resting place. Mikawa nodded with satisfaction. It was indeed appropriate for him to do this. On the one hand, Mikawa was much more mature than Pakura, and his meticulousness was not inferior to Rasa. On the other hand, the Anbu's several mistakes had made Rasa somewhat dissatisfied with the Anbu. What about the ninja from Takumi village? Pakura also asked. What? Are you interested in them? No. I was just asking. Rasa smiled. Since you asked, I might as well leave this matter to you. Pakura was stunned. It's not going to be something troublesome, is it? Not long ago, the Sand Village's large-scale development plan had already made Pakura feel overwhelmed. Rasa hesitated for a moment, which immediately made Pakura realize that this might really be a troublesome matter, and she hurriedly refused. If it's a troublesome matter, then forget it. No. This matter must be done by you and Mikawa. Shinga and Maki are not suitable, but you don't have to do it yourselves. Like the Sand Village's large-scale development plan this time, you can find suitable people below to do it. This really surprised Pakura and Mikawa. What is it? Pakura was somewhat resistant, but Mikawa was quite curious. After all, as a noble and not young Mikawa, he was not so eager to pursue power, but rather cared more about the interests of the family. It's like this, according to the agreed time, the Luo Sha River will be completed in half a month. At that time, many merchants will definitely arrive at our sand village by boat, but it won't work if no one manages it. It will be a mess. Mikawa, there are more literate people in the Sand Clan. I plan to establish a new department in Sand Village, called Sand Village River Affairs Management Department. On the one hand, it will manage these ships, and on the other hand, it will set reasonable commercial taxes. We Sand Village has built such a waterway, not just to let those merchants make a fortune. Our Sand Village also has to earn a share. In that case, the village's development funds will be even less of a problem in the future. Mikawa's eyes lit up. Not bad, that's indeed the way it should be. I will go down and prepare later, and after it's ready, I will present it to Lord Kazekage. Well, don't be too harsh in the early stage. Our main purpose is to attract more people to come to our Sand Village to do business and develop our Sand Village. We'll talk about the rest later. Mikawa understood Rasa's meaning and said with a mysterious smile on his face. Don't worry, Lord Kazekage, I understand. Well, next I also plan to establish a department, Sand Village River Affairs Construction Department. The responsibility of this department is very simple, that is, to build ships. With such a waterway, it won't work if there are no ships from our Sand Village. Shipping is also very profitable. Pakura, I'll leave this matter to you. I'll also hand over those guys from Takumi village to you. Of course, shipbuilding is just the superficial work. The focus is on the technology in the hands of these Takumi village. I have a document here that you can take back and take a look at. Takumi village has a way to create special ninja tools. If it can be used well, it can greatly enhance the strength of our Sand Village. Pakura was not stupid, of course she knew that Rasa was doing this intentionally. It was also to balance the two factions in the village so that everyone could benefit. I understand, I will find someone to arrange it. The last thing, it's been more than a year since I became Kazekage. You have been my right and left arms and have assisted me for so long. I think I should give you some rewards. Although it's just a little empty name, please don't dislike it. In the somewhat surprised gazes of the two, Rasa issued his new appointment order. From today onwards, Pakura and Mikawa, you will be promoted to the two elders of Sand Village, with status only below me, enjoying the same status and treatment as Elder Chio and Elder Ebizo. At the same time, you are qualified to participate in all political affairs of Sand Village. Mikawa was somewhat gaffed for the first time. Because in Sand Village, the status of an elder is extraordinary. Don't look at the two of them as representatives of their respective factions before, but in the village, their status is similar to that of a clan leader. They simply don't have the right to speak like Elder Chio and Elder Ebizo. They simply can't interfere in many things in the village, but now it's different. They have the power of the entire Sand Village, almost only weaker than Rasa, the Kazekage. Pakura was also very surprised, but after the excitement, the somewhat keen Pakura noticed something. How did she feel that Rasa was giving them the position of elder in order to throw some troublesome things in the village to them? Of course, these words can't be said. The future of Sand Village depends on us to maintain it together. The two didn't say much nonsense and nodded heavily. Alright, I will have Maki issue this order today. From now on, you will be Elder Pakura and Elder Mikawa, but in addition to the village's affairs, the matter of cultivation cannot be delayed. You should be able to sense that the Senjutsu energy has suddenly become many times richer, right? The two of course could feel it and both nodded. At this time, Rasa didn't hide it anymore. I have already integrated Shukaku's chakra and Six Tails chakra into it, which means that the Senjutsu energy will also have the power of Shukaku and Six Tails next, but in the end, it still depends on your degree of development. Mikawa was somewhat surprised, but Pakura's eyes lit up. I see. Alright, I won't say much more. Next, you should cultivate well. Peace is only temporary. For the better future of our Sand Village, it's not enough for only me to be strong. Well, then we'll take our leave. Yeah. After seeing the two leave, Rasa summoned Yashimaru and handed him the scroll containing Shino's forbidden techniques. Take this and study it carefully. After making a copy, give it to Elder Chio. As for why Rasa didn't go himself, it was because he had more important things to do and was about to leave the village. As for the target, it was that, zero-tailed. The so-called zero-tail, according to the scroll submitted by Shino, is a life form composed of dark chakra that was discovered by the empty ninja village a long time ago, called Null. Although it is called zero-tail, in fact, the zero-tail has nothing to do with the tailed beasts. When the empty ninja village discovered the zero-tail was sealed up. The empty ninja village originally had no intention of releasing this evil power, but after the empty ninja village was destroyed by Konoha in the last Ninja World War, in order to take revenge, the empty ninja village stole the sealing technique to control the tailed beasts from Konoha, released the zero-tail, and controlled it. Unfortunately, although the empty ninja village controlled the zero-tail, they also understood that with the strength of the zero-tail, it was impossible to defeat the ninjas of the 5 great villages and the 9 tails to take revenge on Konoha. Therefore, they set their sights on the other tailed beasts. As long as the zero-tail absorbs the evil power of other tailed beasts, then perhaps it will have the power to fight. Unfortunately, they died before they could even start. For the current Rasa, dealing with such a monster is still easy. Not to mention, Rasa had already sent ninjas from the secret mobile unit to investigate the empty ninja village's information thoroughly. And just as Rasa was acquiring the power of this zero-tail, which was like a loach, some changes were also taking place in Omegakure. Land of Rain, Omegakure. Since Yahiko and the others returned from Sunagakure, problems have begun to appear in the Akatsuki organization. These problems do not come from the outside, but from within Akatsuki. Because the naive Yahiko told his companions the results of their trip to Sunagakure. Then, a result that Yahiko and his group of 3 did not expect appeared. Yahiko originally thought that his companions would agree with his idea of hating war and striving for peace, but after he said that the Kazekage of Sunagakure actually suggested that the Akatsuki organization overthrow the leader of Omegakure, Hanzo the Salamander, and become the new leader of Omegakure, everyone actually seemed very interested and suggested that Yahiko overthrow Hanzo and occupy Omegakure. This was something Yahiko could not understand, and it made him feel strange and uneasy. It was his good friend Daibutsu who told him the truth. This is the reality of this world, Yahiko. Not everyone can do what you do. The ideal world of the future is certainly beautiful, but more people care about what they can get right now. Indeed, for the people of the Akatsuki organization, the peaceful world without war that Yahiko described was too far away. On the contrary, if the Akatsuki organization could overthrow Hanzo the Salamander and occupy Omegakure, Everyone present could become the upper echelons of a Megakure with this achievement. They had had enough of the life of wandering ninjas who could not gain recognition, lived from hand to mouth, and even had to endure hunger. At this moment, Yahiko was confused. He didn't know how to choose. What Yahiko didn't know was that the news that the Akatsuki organization wanted to rebel had already spread within a Megakure. Land of Rain, a Megakure. Since the end of the Second Ninja World War 10 years ago. After exhausting all of a Megakure's savings and still suffering defeat, gaining nothing, the former demigod of the ninja world, Hanzo the Salamander, had become an old man who only knew how to hold on to power. How could Hanzo the Salamander not know about the existence of the Akatsuki organization? But the reason why he didn't attack the Akatsuki organization was that the existence of the Akatsuki organization did not affect his power in the short term, and secondly, the existence of the Akatsuki organization did solve some of the internal troubles of a Megakure for him and became a force to confront the major ninja villages on the surface. But in the most recent month or so, the Akatsuki organization had made Hanzo feel dangerous. The reason was that the Akatsuki organization had actually cooperated with Sunagakure of the Land of Wind. Although the Akatsuki organization was very clever and only reached a cooperation with Sunagakure in terms of interests, refusing some nominal assistance, it still made Hanzo feel dangerous. The Akatsuki organization was beginning to touch the edge of his power to rule a Megakure. And at this time, Danzo from Konoha suddenly contacted him. In the letter, Danzo hinted to him in various ways how dangerous the existence of the Akatsuki organization was. If Hanzo needed it, Danzo's root could cooperate with him to help eliminate the Akatsuki organization. Hanzo was not a fool. Of course, he did not believe that Danzo from Konoha would be so kind as to consider him. But just as he was sneering at what conspiracy Danzo had to target a Megakure, news from the Akatsuki organization reached him. I have to say that although the Akatsuki organization is known as a secret organization, the uneven ninjas within the organization make it difficult for the Akatsuki organization to keep its internal secrets, especially such a big thing. After learning that it was actually the Kazekage of Sunagakure who was encouraging the leader of the Akatsuki organization, Yahiko, to replace him, and the Akatsuki organization also seemed very interested in this suggestion, Hanzo finally couldn't sit still. So, he joined forces with Danzo from Konoha, preparing to completely eliminate the Akatsuki organization. As for the method, it was very simple. Land of Rain, a Megakure. Inside the dark cave, the Akatsuki organization's base. The appearance of a Konoha Anbu ninja broke the recent undercurrent within the Akatsuki organization. Although Yahiko and the others were puzzled, they still received him. Konoha ninja, why are you here? The ninja wearing the Anbu mask at the head took out a scroll and handed it over with both hands. I am here to see the members of the Akatsuki organization in the name of Lord Hokage. Hokage. Yahiko and the others were all surprised. They still had a good impression of this fourth Hokage of Konoha, because, as disciples of Master Jiraiya, the two sides could be considered brothers in a sense, right? Conan carefully took the scroll, checked that it was correct, and handed it to Yahiko. Yahiko opened it and was shocked by what was on it. This made Conan and Nagato on the side a little puzzled. Seeing this, the Anbu ninja directly explained. You should have heard that the fourth Hokage of our Konoha village wants to convene a 5-cage summit to completely quell this ninja world war, but it is not easy to get the cage to sit together, so Lord Hokage wants to use the power of a Megakure to propose peace negotiations to the Land of Wind and the Land of Earth. The Land of Rain is located at the intersection of the three countries, and its geographical location is very important. Lord Hokage believes that the Land of Wind and the Land of Earth still care about the proposals of the Land of Rain. Yahiko suddenly had a trace of interest, but he did not lose his mind. You should be looking for Lord Hanzo the Salamander for this kind of thing. He is the leader of a Megakure. This Konoha Anbu said with preparation. Of course we have already looked for him, but the Akatsuki organization is also a force not to be ignored. If the power of the two can be combined, it will have a pivotal role. Outside the Angkor Wat base of the Sky Ninja Village, Rasa controlled the gold dust cloud, standing tall in the sky. He had already completed the absorption of the zero-tailed chakra. How should I put it? The zero-tailed was weaker than he had imagined, and its chakra reserves were also low, unable to even condense a chakra fruit. However, it wasn't a complete waste. As an aggregate of dark chakra, a power born from the darkness within human hearts, Rasa gained an interesting ability after absorbing it. He could sense the malice in people's hearts. This further enhanced his sensory abilities. However, without the zero-tailed, the Sky Ninja Village's base, Angkor Wat, lost its power source to float in the sky, causing it to fall directly to the ground. But Rasa didn't plan to discard such a massive fortress base. Whether as the Sky Ninja Village's base, the technology it contained, or simply as a spectacle to behold, it could serve a significant purpose. And so, accompanied by the continuous sounds of battle inside the base, about an hour later, the 6 members of the covert mobile unit responsible for investigating the Sky Ninja Village arrived before Rasa. Leading them were Sand Lizard and Sand Eagle. Lord Kazekage, the rebellious elements within the Sky Ninja Village have been eliminated. The others are willing to join our Sand Village. There are also some ordinary people who were imprisoned and having their power extracted. Those who wanted to leave have been released, and the remaining ones are also willing to join our Sand Village. Yes, well done. You've worked hard these past few days, Rasa said, taking out a scroll from his pocket and throwing it to them. The two were stunned, but Rasa's explanation quickly made them happy. This is the reverse summoning technique developed by Hinoka. Next, take 2 people to Summoning Island and deploy this technique according to the instructions on the scroll. You can also take this opportunity to subdue the summoning beasts you've chosen. Both Sand Lizard and Sand Eagle were overjoyed. They knew it had been almost half a year since they last went to Summoning Island. During this time, the two had been constantly thinking about the summoning beasts they had chosen on Summoning Island, but they didn't dare to take any action without Lord Kazekage's permission. They didn't expect the surprise to come so suddenly. Hey, thank you, Lord Kazekage. Okay. The remaining 2 will take the others back to the village and hand them over to Maki for arrangements. Understood, Lord Kazekage. As the 6 people each departed to carry out their orders, the sand gold surged out from under Rasa's feet, directly transforming into a giant gold dust cloud, lifting the Angkor Wat fortress of the Sky Ninja Village and flying towards the Sand Village. In just over 2 days, Rasa dragged the massive, sun-masking fortress to the Dragon Oasis. Fortunately, the environment of the Land of Wind prevented any towns from appearing along the way, avoiding panic. Since the 6 Tails, Saiken, accepted Rasa's invitation and stayed in the Dragon Oasis. In order to prevent ordinary people from disturbing the tailed beasts, Rasa divided the Dragon Oasis into 5 areas. The very center, a range of 3 kilometers in diameter, was the core area of the Dragon Oasis. Then there were the 4 areas in the east, south, west, and north. The eastern area was divided for the tailed beasts, currently inhabited by Bunpuku, the one-tailed Jinchuriki, and Saiken, the 6 tails. After Shukaku's proactive persuasion incident, Rasa, to thank Shukaku, also released the seal on Shukaku within Bunpuku's body. Although Shukaku still had to live inside Bunpuku's body, it no longer had to be bound and restricted, allowing it to move freely. It could be considered a genuine reconciliation to some extent. The northern area became the place where Chiyo, Ebizo, and Pakura lived. Rasa planned to transform the western area into a training ground for the future Sand Village and a connection to Summoning Island. Finally, Rasa planned to create a lake in the southern area. Originally, Rasa was worried that it would be a bit monotonous, but now with the Angkor Wat fortress, it was different. The appearance of this massive, sun-masking fortress immediately attracted the attention of everyone living in the Dragon Oasis. But everyone was not panicked, because they saw the sand gold cloud that supported the entire fortress, knowing that it was Rasa's doing. However, this did not prevent everyone's curiosity. What is this? Seeing Rasa descending from the sky, Pakura and the others came up and asked directly. This is the mobile base built by the Sky Ninja Village after it was destroyed by Konoha. They call it the Angkor Wat Fortress. I went out this time to deal with this matter. It looks quite good, right? I plan to put it in the southern area of the Dragon Oasis as a landscape. It's indeed spectacular, Chiyo also said in admiration. Of course, this was from the perspective of ordinary architecture. The Angkor Wat fortress was indeed huge, but it was still small compared to the Dragon Oasis, only 400 to 500 meters in diameter. Come with me. Rasa didn't waste time and directly controlled the Angkor Wat fortress to come to the edge of the southern area. Everyone also unceremoniously came to Rasa's sand gold cloud. Then, Earth Release, artificial lake creation technique. With Rasa's current Earth Release control ability, there was no need for any design drawings. Accompanied by the collapse of the Earth, a sinkhole with a diameter of 3 kilometers and a depth of 7 or 8 meters appeared in front of everyone. Rasa controlled the sand gold cloud, placing the Angkor Wat fortress at an angle facing the sand village. Then, he used techniques to directly compress the surrounding sand into pieces of stone like a floor. At the same time, countless trees also appeared around the lake and the Angkor Wat fortress. In just an instant, he used sage art energy to build an artificial natural landscape. At this time, only water was missing. Water release, waterfall basin technique. Rasa directly created a water source with water release, filling the lake. Although there was also groundwater underneath, Rasa didn't want to affect the water supply of the distant sand village. The water in the Ryusa River was seawater and could not be drunk. That was a temporary expedient for the opening of the waterway. Once the land of rain was dealt with, connecting the Ryusa River to the land of rain, the pure, drinkable river water would replace the seawater. Watching this scene unfold, the people around Rasa couldn't help but marvel at Rasa's power. By the way, you can also go and take a look inside when you have time. Angkor Wat hides the technology left by the Sky Ninja Village, including a very powerful chakra energy cannon. As long as there is enough chakra, it can destroy a mountain with one blow. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Everyone was shocked at once. That's also why I didn't put it in the village. Everyone also understood. Such a weapon was indeed too terrifying and could not be known by other villages. Elder Pakura, I will hand over the ownership of this place to you. From now on, besides the few of you present, others who want to enter here must have your warrant. Pakura also knew the importance of this place and nodded. Mikawa asked, understanding something. Lord Kazekage, do you mean that from now on, besides us, other people in the village can also come here? Regarding Mikawa's question, Rasa understood his thoughts. After all, he was about to become a father himself. Well, at the current rate of expansion of the Dragon Oasis, I'm afraid the villagers will discover it in a year or two, so there's no need to hide it anymore. However, to be honest, this place is too far from the village. If you just want Kunimi to train here, there's no need. It's better to stay in the village. After all, besides the Ninshu training methods, there are no other training methods that allow ordinary people to master Sage Chakra. I won't have time for that either. Mikawa nodded, he was a little disappointed, but he understood. But just then, Elder Chiyo, who was beside him, suddenly asked with a mysterious smile. What if this old woman finds a way for ordinary children to cultivate Sage Chakra? As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Dragon Oasis, in the 3-story pavilion. In Elder Chiyo's laboratory, everyone saw the few white mice that Elder Chiyo had locked in cages. Just one glance, and everyone was very surprised, because they could all sense that there was Sage Chakra in these 3 white mice. This is. Only Rasa saw more. Cursed seal. That's right. Elder Chiyo nodded. Ever since you, Kazekage, gave this old woman the technique to develop so that ordinary people could master Sage Chakra, this old woman has been researching it. Unfortunately, this old woman really doesn't have a clue about the breathing method that Kazekage-sama told me. Fortunately, Kazekage-sama gave me that special technique called Cursed Seal last time, which gave this old woman inspiration. I found that the so-called Cursed Seal is somewhat similar to the way you, Kazekage, share Sage Chakra with us through Ninshu. Therefore, I wondered if I could also implant Sage Chakra into the bodies of ordinary ninjas through the Cursed Seal, and then allow ordinary ninjas to gradually adapt to the existence of Sage Chakra through cultivation, until they can sense and use Sage Chakra. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Rasa's face was full of amazement. To be honest, this was something he hadn't even thought of. However, it wasn't smooth at the beginning. The reason why you, Kazekage-sama, can allow us to master Sage Chakra is because our chakra and bodies are very strong, and can withstand the activation of Sage Chakra on our bodies. Secondly, you, Kazekage-sama, can freely control the amount of Sage Chakra. But ordinary ninjas are not necessarily able to do that. I tried it with these white mice. Their bodies couldn't adapt to the Sage Chakra quickly, and they would soon collapse and disintegrate or become distortion. But these mice. Yekora raised a question. These mice seemed to be fine. Chio nodded. This is thanks to you, Kazekage-sama, for having Yakushimaru send the medical scroll not long ago. The outside world really can't be underestimated. I thought Tsunade Heim was already very good, but I didn't expect this guy named Shino to be even more powerful. The dark medical ninjutsu he developed is really amazing, and he actually has a way to prevent and reverse cell collapse and disintegration. At this moment, Rasa was really amazed. So, is it successful now? I guess so. I combined the cursed seal with some techniques from dark medical ninjutsu to develop the cursed seal that you see before you, which I call Sage Cursed Seal. However, I have only done experiments on animals so far. As for humans, I understand. Rasa thought for a while, and after thinking about it, he asked. If it's a human experiment, Elder Chio, how confident are you? Chio thought for a while. I'm quite confident, but you should understand, Kazekage, there's no such thing as 100% in this world. Yeah, Rasa originally had a relatively risky idea, to directly select some children from the ninja school with poor qualifications, but he quickly realized that he was a little too impatient, and dispelled the idea and said. Next, I will have Maki's Anbu secretly cooperate with you, Elder Chio. Everything will be based on safety and stability as the first principle. I don't need the Sage Cursed Seal to be too strong, as long as it can improve the basic level of our Sunagaku ninjas. I understand, Kazekage. There's one more thing. I've developed a set of taijutsu to cooperate with the Sage Cursed Seal. This can't be verified through animal experiments. I remember you seemed to have said that besides Princess Shinga, there are 3 other children in the village's ninja school who can sense Sage Chakra. I hope you can hand those 3 children over to me. Chio's words also reminded Rasa. No problem, I will tell Maki later and have Maki bring those 3 children over directly. After saying this, Rasa also looked at Yekora. I heard that those 3 little devils from Akatsuki are actually going to cooperate with Hanzo of Omegakure. Konoha. The cooperation between Omegakure and Akatsuki was indeed Minato Namikaze's idea. Since Shikaku returned from Sunagakure last time, after Shikaku's narration, Minato understood that Rasa didn't not want to participate in the 5-Cage Summit, but he needed to give Sunagakure an explanation, otherwise, he wouldn't have revealed that the 4 Tails Jinchuriki was still alive. He quickly contacted Iwagakure, and Onoki also expressed his sincerity after receiving the news, saying that he was willing to redeem the 4 Tails Jinchuriki at the price they originally bought the 4 Tails from the first Hokage. However, Minato Namikaze felt that it was still not safe. At this time, the appearance of an intelligence attracted his attention. That is, there seemed to be some changes in Omegakure. Akatsuki, this secret organization that suddenly rose during this war, seemed to have some internal problems. Minato Namikaze looked at this intelligence and instantly had some ideas. The fact that Akatsuki and Sunagakure have some kind of connection is no longer a secret to the 5 great shinobi villages. Especially since Akatsuki publicly visited Sunagakure not long ago. So, Minato Namikaze had some ideas. He learned about his 3 senior brothers and sisters from his teacher Jiraiya, and then wrote letters to the 3 of them, hoping to unite Omegakure and Akatsuki, and use Akatsuki's relationship with Sunagakure to persuade that Kazekage of Sunagakure to agree to this 5-Cage Summit. However, what Minato didn't know was that this intelligence was shown to him by Danzo. Having just become Hokage, he has not completely controlled the Anbu. Even the scroll he sent was only sent to Yahiko and the others after Danzo glanced at it. Minato, this old man will use the facts to tell you that you are not suitable for the position of Hokage. The 5-Cage Summit will ruin your reputation. Rain Country, Omegakure. It holds a special status within the entire ninja world. After all, it was a being who, over a decade ago, challenged the entire ninja world order single-handedly. Especially Hanzo of the Salamander, the leader of Omegakure, was once hailed as a demigod-like ninja hero. The now famous Sannin of Konoha gained their renown thanks to this man's naming. Throughout the ninja world, Hanzo of the Salamander's name still deters many. Lightning Country, Kumogakure. The third Raikage couldn't help but sigh in admiration upon seeing the news from Konoha. I never expected that kid from Konoha to convince that old geezer as well. The Akatsuki, I remember they've been quite active recently, haven't they? Darui, the Raikage's aide, replied. Yes, Raikage-sama, they are very close to Sunagakure. Onoki's actions in the Rain Country were orchestrated by them. Although the Akatsuki's overall strength isn't that outstanding, they are qualified to be annoying pests. Not long ago, the leader of the Akatsuki personally visited the Kazekage and Sunagakure. Minato Namikaze is truly skilled at leveraging power. Darui, prepare. It seems the 5-Cage summit will be held in Omegakure. Since it's a 5-Cage summit, for safety reasons, the venue definitely can't be in one of the 5 great ninja villages. Choosing a neutral country, Omegakure, seems to be the best option. Yes, sir. Darui nodded, his expression serious as he left to prepare. The future 4th Raikage, asked somewhat unwillingly from the side. Father, are we really going to participate in this 5-Cage summit? We sacrificed so much to attack Konoha, and now it's all for nothing. Idiot. The 3rd Raikage immediately roared. Use your brain. What do you think war is for? War isn't about living or dying, it's about benefit. As long as it benefits Kumogakure, anything is possible. But I don't see how participating in this 5-Cage summit benefits Kumogakure. The 3rd Raikage looked at his son with some helplessness. How could he have such a foolish son? He was even considering retiring and handing over the Raikage position to him. Fool, I ask you, who is the most anxious about this 5-Cage summit? Of course, it's Onoki. Iwagakure is currently in a state of isolation, fearing retaliation from Sunagakure. Moreover, Iwagakure has lost 2 Jinchuriki at once. I heard Onoki is frantically applying for military funds from the daimyo to redeem Son Goku. Besides Iwagakure, the 4th Raikage thought for a moment. It should be Kurigakure. Kurigakure was already weak, and now it's in internal strife and has lost Seiken. Not too stupid. Then what's next? The 4th Raikage seemed to understand his father's meaning and said after thinking. Next are Sunagakure, Konoha, and Kumogakure. Although I don't want to admit it, judging by the current situation, as long as the 4th Kazekage is alive, Sunagakure will be the most proactive in this 5-Cage summit. Next are us and Konoha. That's right. The 3rd Raikage nodded in satisfaction and spoke his inner thoughts. Among us and Konoha, Konoha is the host this time. Also, Konoha suffered significant losses in this war. Although Kumogakure also has some damage, our strength and Jinchuriki are fine. Finally, and most importantly, compared to Konoha, Iwagakure, and Kurigakure, Kumogakure and Sunagakure have the least conflict. The 4th Raikage understood immediately. Father, you mean that in this 5-Cage summit, we and Sunagakure are the advantaged parties, Konoha is in the middle, and Iwagakure and Kurigakure are the disadvantaged parties. Yes, what we can't get on the battlefield, we can only get through negotiations. Saying this, the 3rd Raikage directly issued an order. You will be my bodyguard for this 5-Cage summit. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. The future 4th Raikage was somewhat embarrassed and wanted to refuse because Minato Namikaze and Yagura, who were of the same generation as him, had become Kage. If he went now, wouldn't that theoretically mean he had to bow his head to them? But he didn't dare to oppose his father's intentions. I understand. All right, go and prepare. Iwagakure. Since Iwagakure's attack on Sunagakure failed and 2 Jinchuriki were captured, Iwagakure has been in a state of anxiety. Under Onoki's orders, all ninjas were quickly withdrawn, and the entire village was sealed off. Logically speaking, showing such timidity in front of such a young junior shouldn't be something a Kage should do, but Onoki had no choice. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, the information from the frontline ninjas still made Onoki recall the fear of being dominated by those 2 terrifying men. Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. The 2 men who could pacify the ninja world with their own strength. Onoki didn't know how much the current 4th Kazekage had grown, but being able to easily subdue 2 Jinchuriki and 3 berserk-tailed beasts had already proven that this Kazekage had surpassed their level to the point that even Onoki didn't have the confidence to defeat him. Not only Onoki, but the ninjas who returned from the front lines also harbored fear towards Sunagaku after witnessing that war. "How are you now?" In the Iwagakure office, Onoki looked at his son, Kitsuchi. Although Kitsuchi, as the culprit of the tailed beast rampage in Sunagaku, took advantage of the tailed beast's rampage to escape in time, the explosion of the tailed beast ball still affected him, causing him to lie in bed for more than half a month before finally recovering. "I have recovered, father." Kitsuchi had a lot to say, but looking at his frowning father, he didn't know how to start. Onoki knew this, so he didn't waste time. "Since there are no problems, you will accompany me to this 5-cage summit. This is very unfavorable for Iwagakure, but no matter what, Roshi must be redeemed. Also, you must keep a close eye on Kurigakure. This time, our losses can only be compensated from Kurigakure." Kitsuchi nodded, then asked with a serious expression. "I understand, father. Then I will go and prepare." As Kitsuchi left, Onoki looked at the Iwagakure outside and sighed deeply. Although this wasn't the first time Iwagakure had faced such a life-and-death crisis since its founding, the first Hokage and second Hokage were there to support him at that time, but now. Just then, suddenly, a voice sounded behind him. "As the third Tsuchikage of Iwagakure, you can also show such weakness." Onoki was shocked and quickly retreated, while also initiating dust release. "Who is it?" Appearing before him was a man who looked just as short as him, with a sinister smile. "Don't worry, third Tsuchikage, I am not an enemy. Let me introduce myself, my name is Victor, and I am the leader of the Valley Country. I am here to seek cooperation. Tsuchikage-sama, are you willing to be held hostage by that kid from Sunagaku? Rain Country. Under the torrential downpour of rain. Although the weather was terrible, Yahiko, as the leader of the Akatsuki, was in a good mood. Because for the first time in the ninja world, thanks to his efforts, it was truly beginning to move towards peace. After confirming that the letter from the Konoha Anbu was fine and indeed came from his never-before-seen senior apprentice, the Akatsuki, led by Yahiko, made its first contact with Omegakure under the guidance of the Konoha Anbu. The result was delightful to Yahiko. As Yahiko's former object of admiration, Hanzo of the Salamander also showed a keen attitude towards peace, willing to reach some kind of reconciliation with the Akatsuki, granting the Akatsuki a recognized specific status in Omegakure, and working together for the peace of Omegakure. And the 5-cage summit was an attempt by both sides. Everything seemed to be moving in a good direction, but soon, the arrival of a letter broke this peace. Inside the cave that served as the Akatsuki base, Yahiko looked at the letter from the 4th Kazekage of Sunagaku with a stunned expression. He had originally held expectations for this letter, because not long ago, he had personally written a letter, which was delivered to Sunagaku by an Akatsuki ninja. In this letter, Yahiko earnestly described his dream of peace for the ninja world, and sincerely expressed his hope that the war would end. He originally thought that Rasa would be able to understand him. After all, although the two sides had only been in contact twice, Yahiko could feel that Rasa also hated war. But unexpectedly, the reply contained only 2 words personally written by the Kazekage, good and evil. These 2 words directly stunned everyone in the Akatsuki's high command. What does this mean? Everyone looked at each other, completely confused. Everyone naturally knew these 2 words, but this was completely different from what they had expected. What exactly did the Kazekage mean? At this moment, Conan, who always thought things through more maturely, suddenly said slowly. Could it be that Rasa is reminding us of something? Why? Everyone's eyes fell on Conan. Among the 3 leaders of the entire Akatsuki, Yahiko was too naive, Nagato was a silent gourd, and only the precocious Conan could be considered to have some ideas. This was of course Conan's intuition, because she clearly remembered that when the 3 of them met Rasa not long ago, they had mentioned Yahiko's shortcomings, which was that Yahiko was too naive, but she couldn't say this out loud. She thought for a while, recalling the recent events, and soon had a flash of inspiration. Is Rasa reminding us that Omegakure's purpose in recruiting us this time is not that simple? Conan's words immediately awakened everyone. Because during this period, With the increase in contact between the Akatsuki and Omegakure, the opinion of Hanzo of the Salamander, the leader, was conveyed from Omegakure. Omegakure wanted to accept the Akatsuki as a member of Omegakure. For this reason, Hanzo of the Salamander personally invited Yahiko, the leader, to go to Omegakure. This was obviously a very risky thing, but Yahiko agreed. Conan, I know your worries, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us to strive for peace. But, don't worry, I'm not a fool either. This time, Nagato and I will take people there. With Nagato here, even if Omegakure takes any action against us, we can still escape. Yahiko's words did alleviate some of the worries in Conan's heart, because only Conan, who had lived with him since childhood, knew the terrifying power contained in Nagato's eyes. What about Rasa's side? Don't worry, I'll write another letter to Rasa. Okay. Dash 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 dash. Time passed quickly, and 2 days passed. It was time for Yahiko and Hanzo of the Salamander to meet as agreed. Don't worry. After comforting the worried Conan again, Yahiko looked at Kyusuke and Daibutsu behind Conan. I'll leave things here to you for now. After saying that, Yahiko and Nagato led a group of Akatsuki members, their figures disappearing into the heavy rain. Time passed by minute. In the dim stone cave, the candlelight flickered, reflecting Conan's somewhat worried face. Seeing this, Kyusuke, who had always been secretly in love with Conan, knew that he would never be able to win Conan's heart. But even so, he still didn't want to see Conan looking so worried, and stepped forward to comfort her. Don't worry, Conan, Yahiko and the others will be fine. With Yahiko and everyone's strength, even if they encounter an ambush, they can definitely escape. What he said was true, but Conan still showed a trace of worry on her face, especially when she thought of the 2 words on the scroll that Rasa had sent them, and Rasa's evaluation of Yahiko. Seeing Conan still looking so anxious, Kyusuke could only say to Daibutsu beside him. You think so too, right, Daibutsu? But at this moment, for some reason, Daibutsu also felt a deep sense of unease in his heart. Just then, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed outside, illuminating the sky, and a figure covered in blood, wearing an Akatsuki ninja uniform, appeared in everyone's sight. Not good, we were ambushed by Hanzo and the Konoha Anbu, the leader and the others are trapped. At this moment, Conan's face turned pale, without a trace of blood. If it was just Omegakure, Conan could still remain calm, but at this moment, she heard the name of the Konoha Anbu. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. In other words, all of this was actually planned by Konoha behind the scenes. But wasn't that Hokage also the teacher's disciple? And isn't the teacher also in Konoha now? Conan's brain also became chaotic, full of disbelief. But looking at her blood-stained companion in front of her, she had no choice but to believe it. Daibutsu reacted the fastest. Conan, you stay here and prepare to support us. I'll take people to support the leader and the others immediately. I'm going too. Kyusuke and Daibutsu immediately led the Akatsuki ninjas in the base into the heavy rain. Looking at her departing companions, Conan was also a little at a loss. Just as she was about to ask her companion what was happening ahead, her eyes fell on the ninja who came to report the news, and the lightning flashed, illuminating his cheeks. There was no panic on it, only a trace of sinister smile of a scheme succeeding. At this moment, Conan suddenly remembered something, her face turned pale, and her body began to retreat rapidly, but it was too late. She felt a sharp pain coming from behind her. What? Conan looked back in disbelief, and saw behind her those members who were originally companions, all showing terrible smiles on their faces. In this instant, Conan finally understood the true meaning of the 2 words that Rasa had sent them. So the Akatsuki had already been infiltrated by the enemy to this point. Conan could no longer tell who was good and who was evil in this world. Rain country. The rain poured down, 60 kilometers outside Omegakure, on a stone bridge over a huge lake. Yahiko and the others met with Hanzo of the Salamander. The pattering rain flowed down their faces. The young leader of Akatsuki, Yahiko, and Hanzo of the Salamander, representing Omegakure, looked at each other, with a giant salamander sitting behind Hanzo. What remarkable young people. From under his mask, Hanzo of the Salamander voiced his admiration. As their first meeting, he was surprised by the youthfulness of these Akatsuki members before him. He unexpectedly extended his hand proactively. Yahiko was initially stunned, but then tentatively extended his hand as well. Their hands clasped together. The thing that the Akatsuki members were worried about did not happen, everything was peaceful. Yahiko also breathed a sigh of relief. We greet Lord Hanzo. Acting naturally meant acting completely. Hanzo of the Salamander said coldly. Boy, you should know what I mean. What is your choice? Although Yahiko was sometimes naive, he was relatively calm when it came to everyone. If we can make a contribution to the peace of this world, our Akatsuki organization will naturally not shirk responsibility. Then you've saved me some lip service. It's too silly to stand here, let's go over there and chat. Okay. Inside a certain village in the Rain Country. As time passed, both sides talked for a long time about this cooperation. Hanzo of the Salamander also discovered the naivety that Yahiko showed, as well as his anticipation for peace, which made him see his former self, and he suddenly felt some regret. Perhaps he had made a mistake. If this kid in front of him could really join Imegakure and be nurtured by him personally, perhaps he could really become a leader who could lead Imegakure to a new path. It's just a pity that everything was already too late. Then, one last question. I heard that you are quite familiar with that Kazekage from Sunagakure. Yahiko was stunned, but then honestly said. No, I only happened to have met Mr. Rasa a few times. I wouldn't say we're familiar. A glint of light flashed in Hanzo's eyes. It doesn't matter. Do you have the confidence to persuade that Kazekage? Judging from the assertive attitude shown by the current Kazekage, it won't be easy to get him to attend the 5-Kage summit. Yahiko wasn't sure either, and could only say, I will try my best. I understand. Well, today's conversation will end here. After you have results on your side, let's continue to contact each other. Okay. Then, we'll take our leave, Lord Hanzo. Under the pattering rain, Hanzo of the Salamander looked with some complexity at the figures of Yahiko and the others disappearing into the rain. What a pity. Are you ready? Don't worry, Lord Hanzo. We have already set up an ambush on their way back. That female ninja named Conan has also been captured by us, and the Konoha ninjas have also killed all the Akatsuki members who came to support them. HMPH. Hearing this, Hanzo snorted coldly. Now that things have come to this, he can see clearly why that guy named Danzo suddenly became concerned about their Rain Country. In addition to strike the prestige of the new Hokage and preventing this 5-Kage summit, it was also to retaliate against that Kazekage. However, Hanzo no longer cared. After all, they had already come this far, and there was no turning back. Prepare to take action. On the way back to the Akatsuki base, the Akatsuki members rarely showed happy smiles on their faces. Before they came, they did have many worries, especially after receiving Rasa's reminder, but the whole process was much easier than they thought. This former demigod, Hanzo of the Salamander, was also easier to talk to than expected. As expected of the person I once respected. Thinking of this, Yahiko looked at Nagato beside him and said happily. Nagato, we finally see a glimmer of hope for the peace we've been pursuing. Seeing Yahiko so happy, the youthful Nagato also showed a smile on his face. The Akatsuki members following behind also breathed a sigh of relief completely. When we get back this time, I will personally go to Sunagakure. I will try everything to persuade Mr. Rasa. But just then, suddenly, a huge unease surfaced in his heart. His eyes noticed the sparks rising from the ground. Yahiko's pupils shrank sharply, and at the same time, he shouted loudly. Be careful. Yahiko's reminder was timely, but it was already too late. The success of this meeting made the Akatsuki group completely relax their vigilance. Boom, boom, boom. Throughout the valley, violent explosions rang out, and smoke filled the entire valley. After the explosions ended, the attack did not stop, and kunai fell from the sky. Until everything was over, in the center of the trap, Yahiko, protected by Nagato, could see everything around him clearly. What's going on? only to see that the companions who had come with them were all with incomplete bodies, covered with kunai, lying on the ground. Their wide eyes seemed to be telling of the unwillingness in their hearts. Nagato, who was protecting Yahiko, also revealed his ripple-like Rinnegan at this moment, looking at everything in fear. Just then, footsteps sounded from all directions. Yahiko turned his head to look and saw the ninjas surrounding them, as well as the leader, Hanzo of the Salamander, whom he had just met not long ago. What? At this moment, Yahiko's eyes were filled with disbelief, anger, and pain. They had clearly just had such a pleasant conversation, so why would they suddenly attack them so mercilessly? Could this be their real plan? Standing in front of everyone, Hanzo of the Salamander said coldly at this time. Why? If you want to know the reason, there is only one. The Rain Country doesn't need any Akatsuki organization. To me, your existence is too much of a hindrance. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Yahiko and the others understood. So, all the conversations just now were fake. For the peace of a megakure. Of course, that was just a play to make you relax your vigilance, kid. You're too naive. Do you really think you can change this ninja world full of hatred just by yourself? Don't be ridiculous. To the 5 great nations, our Rain Country is just a tool they only think of when they want to use it. Even if this 5-cage summit is held, nothing will change. Yahiko gritted his teeth tightly. Why? The peace they had been looking forward to was clearly right in front of them, but now it had become nothing. But Yahiko didn't have time for unwillingness and sadness. The appearance of a figure made his face change greatly. His beloved Conan was captured by the Omegakure ninjas and appeared in front of him. Yahiko, run away quickly, don't worry about me. Hanzo and Konoha joined forces, Kyusuke and Daibutsu, and everyone. Under the pattering rain, tears mixed with the rain flowed down. Yahiko's pupils shrank as he understood Conan's words, and his face turned pale. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. But Hanzo wouldn't give them time to chat. A kunai flew in front of the two. The redhead over there uses whichever one to kill Yahiko. That way, I'll let this woman go with you. Boom. It was as if it were predetermined fate. Yahiko lunged towards the kunai in Nagato's hand, choosing to commit suicide. Under the intense pain, Nagato finally awakened his true power. Although his legs were injured by the exploding tags, he also understood the true power of the Rinnegan for the first time. Summoning technique Gedo statue. That is. At that moment, Hanzo of the Salamander finally recognized Nagato's eyes. I see, you're no ordinary brat, those eyes are actually the legendary Rinnegan. Whether it was the ninjas of Omegakure or the Anbu of Konoha, they had almost no power to resist under such powerful force, and were all wiped out. Only Hanzo of the Salamander escaped with the speed of his body flicker technique. The drizzling rain, along with the resolution of the enemies, the Gedo statue disappeared, and the whole world became quiet again. Nagato, who had a large amount of chakra extracted by the Gedo statue, knelt on the ground. Beside him were Conan, with a face full of shock and sadness, and Yahiko, lying on the ground without any signs of life. Why did it become like this? Not long ago, everyone was still together, working hard to realize their dreams, but now. Looking at the crazed Nagato and the dead Yahiko in her arms, Conan's eyes were filled with only despair at this moment. Time stood still at this moment, with only Nagato's heavy breathing. Until footsteps sounded again in the rain. Pat, pat, pat. This made Nagato and Conan think that the enemy had returned, and they looked towards the direction of the sound in horror and anger, but what appeared in their eyes was someone they never expected. R.O. Lord Rasa. That's right, at this moment, the figure walking out in the rain was Rasa. Looking at the familiar scene in front of him and the shocked expressions of the two, Rasa said with some helplessness. Do you understand the meaning of those two words now? Nagato and Conan were both staring blankly. They understood, but so what? Yahiko was already dead. Everything was already too late. But at this moment, Rasa slowly walked over and came to Conan, looking at Yahiko, who had no breath in front of him. There was also a hint of strangeness on his face. Although it is normal for the ninja world to have high attack and low defense, it is still relatively rare to be stabbed to death directly by a kunai. Especially among these key characters. This also shows that Yahiko's aptitude is too ordinary. If it were Nagato, even if he was stabbed countless times, he would probably be able to recover quickly. Just like now, he was clearly turned into a hedgehog by the ghetto statue, but he was just panting. However, it would be a pity for Yahiko to die here. Especially after this death, Yahiko, who has abandoned his innocence, can become a good helper. Thinking of this, he didn't waste any time and pressed his hands on Yahiko's chest. Forbidden technique Samsara of heavenly life. Conan and Nagato slowly walked to Rasa in front of them. Their expressions were not changed, only sadness and despair, but at this moment, looking at the forbidden technique that Rasa pressed on Yahiko's chest and the faint green light emanating from it, the two of them widened their eyes, not daring to disturb in the slightest, and watched nervously and expectantly. Cough cough cough. I don't know how long it took, but Yahiko, who had no breath, coughed violently. Feeling the coldness of the raindrops on his face, Yahiko, who slowly woke up, looked at everything around him in disbelief. Conan, Nagato, Yahiko. Before he could understand what was going on, Conan and Nagato had already rushed into Yahiko's arms excitedly, and Conan couldn't help crying bitterly, but at this moment, her crying contained endless joy. Now, Yahiko finally understood that he didn't seem to be dead. Conan, what's going on? Didn't I die? At this time, a voice answered all the doubts in his heart. I believe that after today's events, the three of you should have grown up completely. From today onwards, the past Akatsuki organization has died with you, the leader Yahiko. As for what the new Akatsuki will look like next, it all depends on your choices. Time passed slowly for 3 days. Land of Fire, Konoha Village. In the quiet and peaceful Konoha village, with the smooth progress of the 5-Kage summit, Minato Namikaze, who became the 4th Hokage, became increasingly prestigious. And today, the return of one of the legendary Sannin, Tsunade, has brought Minato's prestige to its peak. On the rooftop of the Hokage building, Tsunade looked at the familiar yet unfamiliar village in front of her and said with some emotion. Looks like you're doing a good job as the new Hokage, Minato. Minato, wearing the Hokage robe, had a somewhat shy expression on his face. No, Tsunade-sama, my ability alone is limited, I can't do without the support of the 3rd Hokage-sama, my teacher, and everyone else. Tsunade listened and glanced at the 3rd Hokage and Jiraiya beside Minato without giving them any face. HMPH, it would be good if they didn't hold you back. After all, just uniting the Uchiha clan was something the 3rd Hokage couldn't do at all. Also, you're already the Hokage, so you don't need to use honorifics with me. Minato smiled awkwardly. He really couldn't not use honorifics with Tsunade, but the 3rd Hokage directly asked. Tsunade, now that you're back, help Minato well. I'm already old, the future of the village will depend on you. After all, he was his own teacher. After this year, the anger in Tsunade's heart had dissipated almost completely, but she didn't forgive him, but directly asked. What about Orochimaru? Jiraiya answered. He frowned slightly and said. I don't know what Orochimaru is researching recently, I haven't seen him in a long time. Speaking of this, Jiraiya also comforted him slightly. However, he is very supportive of Minato becoming the Hokage. Jiraiya's words surprised Tsunade, while the 3rd Hokage nodded. In fact, when choosing Minato to become the 4th Hokage, the 3rd Hokage was most worried that his disciple would have some resentment in his heart because he didn't become the Hokage, but he didn't expect that Orochimaru seemed to have changed into a different person, and had no interest in the position of Hokage at all, and had been focusing on research. Seeing this, Tsunade knew that Jiraiya was not lying, which made her feel a little relieved. She was also very worried that her former friend would become enemies because of the position of Hokage, just like the old man and Danzo. Since this was the case, she became concerned about other issues. Minato, how is the 5-Kage summit going? Although I left the village during this time, I have heard about the story of that Kazekage for a long time. I really didn't expect that Grandpa's wood release would be obtained by the people of Sunagaku. It's all that damn Danzo's fault. The 3rd Hokage's expression was a little awkward, and Minato immediately relieved the situation, but he didn't explain anything for Danzo, but said. Currently, it's going relatively smoothly. With the help of a Megakure and Akatsuki, the hope of persuading that Kazekage is very high. This made Tsunade somewhat lost in memories and said, Jiraiya, I heard that the leader of this Akatsuki organization is the 3 kids we met in a Megakure back then. Yes, I really didn't expect those 3 little guys to grow to this point. Jiraiya also sighed with emotion. Speaking of which, maybe we can take this opportunity to meet them again. It's really nostalgic. But at this moment, suddenly, an Anbu ninja appeared in front of everyone. Reporting to Hokage-sama, there's been a change in a Megakure. Everyone was shocked, and a trace of unease suddenly appeared on Minato's face. What happened? The news from the Land of Rain is that Hanzo of the Salamander, the leader of a Megakure, ambushed and killed the Akatsuki organization, and the Akatsuki organization has been confirmed to be destroyed. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. At this moment, everyone's faces were unprecedentedly pale. Rain Country. 3 days have passed since the rebirth of the Akatsuki. Inside the Akatsuki organization's former base, Yahiko, Nagato, and Conan looked at the corpses before them with desolation and sorrow. These people were once their best companions, especially Kyusuke and Daibutsu, who were close friends like family, but now they have all become such cold corpses. However, at this moment, Yahiko no longer asked why. Having been reborn, the original trace of innocence in his eyes had disappeared, replaced by a kind of determination, and his tone also became cold. Let everyone be buried in peace. Yeah. With the efforts of the 3, these people were buried here, and the 3 erected tombstones for each person. Looking at the familiar faces on the tombstone photos, the expressions of the 3 became dim again. Kyusuke, Daibutsu, and everyone, we will come back, but then, it will be time for our revenge. After taking one last look, the 3 walked out of the cave and saw Rasa, wearing a raincoat, waiting at the entrance of the cave. They did not ask Rasa why he didn't save their companions, because Rasa's appearance here and saving Yahiko was already a great favor to them. Is it all settled? Yes. Mr. Rasa, where should we go next? Rasa was already prepared, looking at the dim world outside and said. Next, I will take you to Sunagakure. The specific purpose, you will know when you arrive. The 3 nodded, and then, the figures of the 4 disappeared into the drifting rain. 1 day later. Under the leadership of Rasa, the Akatsuki trio came to Sunagakure in the Land of Wind, but Rasa's footsteps did not stop. Under the somewhat doubtful gazes of the 3, they went directly to the Dragon Oasis. Where is this? The 3 were here for the first time and were shocked by the huge forest in front of them. Rasa's footsteps also stopped, pointing to the forest in front of him and explaining. This place is the forbidden area of our Sunagakure. Dragon Oasis, a place that only those who have my permission can enter. The reason why I brought you here is for only one purpose. Speaking of this, Rasa looked at Yahiko and slowly asked a question. Do you want the power of revenge? Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Conan and Nagato were both surprised, but Yahiko nodded after a slight daze. That's easy to handle. Let me be direct, Yahiko, although I say you are very naive. Naivety is not necessarily a bad thing sometimes, your problem is that you don't have the corresponding power. Power. That's right, among you 3, Nagato is the most suitable to become the leader of Akatsuki. Whether it is his Rinnegan or his Uzumaki clan physique, they all give him the power to match the position of Akatsuki leader. Conan is a little worse, but she also has her own unique secret techniques, only you, Yahiko. I think I don't need to say it too clearly. I once also believed that hard work can make up for the lack of talent, but after so many years, I have gradually seen clearly that although it is a bit cruel, this world is ruled by bloodlines, and only those with strong bloodlines are qualified to control their own destiny. Yahiko's expression suddenly dimmed. Of course, he knew that his aptitude was very poor. The trust of everyone was important for him to become the leader of Akatsuki, but Nagato's trust and support were the most crucial. However, since Rasa said this, there must be other ways. Sure enough. Now, there is an opportunity in front of you that allows you to have the same powerful bloodline, but it is a bit dangerous. Are you willing to try? Yahiko nodded without hesitation. I am willing. Very good, you should have heard about me obtaining some Sharingan in Hashirama Senju cells from the first Hokage when I fought Danzo of Konoha a year ago. The pupils of the three people present shrank suddenly, understanding Rasa's meaning. After more than a year of research, I have finally made some progress. I can transplant Sharingan and Hashirama cells into ordinary people, allowing them to obtain both wood release and Sharingan powers at the same time. However, at present, the entire experiment is still in the testing stage, and there are no successful human cases. Yahiko understood when he heard this, and said without hesitation. I am willing, anyway, my life was given by Mr. Rasa. Yeah, that's good. Rasa nodded. You don't have to worry too much. Currently, from the cell tests, the safety is still very high. Also, the fact that I have the ability to revive the dead cannot be revealed. So next, you will stay in Sunagaku. I will arrange an identity for you, and in the future, you will be responsible for the affairs between Sunagaku and Omegaku. Yahiko naturally had no problem. Okay, then let's go see Elder Chiyo. This transplant experiment will be entirely her responsibility. Is this the brat? In Elder Chiyo's laboratory, Chiyo looked at Yahiko in front of her with scrutiny. Yes, his name is Yahiko. He was the leader of Akatsuki, but from now on, he will be a member of our Sunagaku. Okay, I know, leave the rest to me. Chiyo also knew about what happened in Omegaku, and looked at Yahiko, saying with a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Brat, the power of the Sharingan is easy to master, but Hashirama Senju's cells are extraordinary. Next, you have to persevere, don't die because you can't hold on. Don't worry, Granny Chiyo. Whether it's for the sake of those dead companions, or Conan and Nagato, and Mr. Ross's life-saving grace, I will persevere. Okay. Then the experiment will start tomorrow. At this time, Hinoka behind Chiyo asked Nagato. Are you also from the Uzumaki clan? Who is your mother? In fact, since Nagato came here, his same red hair has attracted the attention of Hanataba and Hinoka here. Hanataba's personality is a bit introverted, and she is too embarrassed to ask Nagato, a stranger, but Hinoka is much more direct. Nagato was also very excited to see a clansman here. My mother's name is Fuso. So it's her. Obviously, Hinoka also knew the name Fuso, but she was unwilling to talk more about it. After all, since joining Sunagaku, the Uzumaki clan is a thing of the past, but this does not mean that she does not care about this clansman. What's wrong with your body? Although Nagato's legs were treated by Rasa in time, the chakra extracted by the demonic statue of the outer path caused his body to be very weak. It's nothing, I just used some forbidden techniques. Hinoka didn't ask any more questions. Seeing this, Rasa instructed. Next, the three of them will live here. Until Yahiko's transplant experiment is successfully completed, in the meantime, Hinoka, as clansman, you will arrange their daily life. Okay. Then I won't disturb you, there are still some things in the village that I need to deal with. Because just now, he received a message from Maki that Minato Namikaze actually wanted to meet him in the Land of Rivers. The border between the Land of Wind and the Land of Rivers. In a small village, ninjas from Konoha gathered here, led by the young fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. However, compared to his previous high-spirited appearance, Minato now seemed somewhat depressed. Everything that happened in the Land of Rain disrupted his plans and caused him to suffer a huge setback for the first time since becoming Hokage. If not handled properly, all his efforts during this time would be in vain, the ninja world would reignite the flames of war, and Konoha would once again face war. This was also why, despite many people's objections, he requested a private meeting with Rasa, the Kazekage of Sunagaku. Accompanying Minato were several confidants since he became Hokage, Shikaku Nara as his strategist, Choza Akamichi as his bodyguard, Inoichi Yamanaka in charge of communications, and Shibi Aburame in charge of intelligence. Jiraiya and Tsunade, who had just returned to the village, were stationed there. Minato had no choice but to do so. Because another piece of news from the Land of Rain made Minato fully aware of the instability of his power. That was that during this operation to wipe out the Akatsuki in Omegaku, there were actually members of Konoha's Anbu present. Without much thought, Minato understood where these Anbu came from. Who else could it be but Elder Danzo? However, although he knew, he couldn't act rashly. Firstly, he had no evidence. Secondly, as one of the elders, the new Hokage couldn't rush to touch their power. Seeing Minato's slightly haggard appearance, Shikaku, who was beside him, comforted him. Hokage-sama, some things can't be rushed. You have to take it slow. Yeah, don't worry, Shikaku, I understand. Then I'm relieved. Overall, the entire Konoha high level was quite welcoming of this new Hokage. Even the Uchiha clan showed a cooperative attitude. The reason was simple. Compared to the vested interests represented by previous Hokage, Minato's background was too clean. This meant that the power of Konoha, which was originally controlled by the elders, had the possibility of loosening. This was what the middle-level forces of Konoha, represented by the Ino Shika Cho trio, and the Uchiha clan, which was being ostracized, wanted to see. Just then, Shibi Aburame spoke. They're here. Everyone instantly perked up and looked towards the land of wind in the distance. Sure enough, under the blazing sun, a group of black figures appeared in the shimmering air. Seeing this, Shikaku sighed. Get ready, this negotiation won't be easy. About 5 minutes later, Rasa, who had brought his subordinates, finally met Minato Namikaze. This time, he didn't bring Yekora and Mikawa, but instead brought Maki and Hinoka. The main reason was that the two of them weren't interested in this negotiation and were now focused on their training. Although they hadn't seen each other for a year, Minato knew that the Kazekage would definitely surprise him when they met again. But when he actually saw him, he was still somewhat shocked. I can't feel anything. Rasa was clearly right in front of him, but Minato couldn't sense his chakra. This meant that Minato couldn't estimate the other party's strength, while the other party could approach him without him even knowing. This was simply fatal in a battle between ninjas. Is this the miraculous power that the great Toad Sage spoke of? But this was only the first thing that surprised Minato. The red hair of the girl next to Rasa was all too familiar, making Minato clearly realize that Konoha's understanding of Tsunagaker was still too lacking. Of course, he knew that Tsunagaker had a survivor of the Uzumaki clan, but based on the information obtained from Kusagaker, Minato was certain that this was definitely not the girl named Hanataba. Minato didn't continue to look, because he could feel that his gaze was making the other party uncomfortable. Minato suppressed his surprise and politely greeted Rasa in front of him. Thank you for accepting my invitation, Kazekage-sama. Rasa didn't mind Minato's rudeness. Tsunagaker no longer needed to hide Hinoka's existence. This time, Rasa brought her out, partly because of Hinoka's sensory abilities, and partly to train Hinoka. After returning this time, Hinoka should be ready to undergo the Sharingan transplant surgery. You're welcome, Hokage-sama. Speaking of which, we can be considered old friends. I haven't congratulated you on becoming Hokage yet. To be honest, this, old friend, made Minato a little embarrassed. After all, their previous encounters had all been as enemies. You're joking. Please come with me, the meeting place is ready. Yeah. Soon, the group arrived at the meeting place prepared in the village. Rasa and Minato Namikaze sat opposite each other, with their respective guards behind them. What Minato Namikaze didn't expect was that just as he sat down and was about to speak, Rasa directly interrupted him. Alright, Hokage, since I'm willing to come and see you, you should understand my attitude. Minato was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Then I won't waste any time. I can, in the name of the Kazekage, represent our Tsunagaker in stopping this war and joining the 5-Kage summit, but I have some requests. This made Minato slightly expectant, but also a little nervous. Kazekage-sama, please speak freely. Very good. First of all, the venue for this 5-Kage summit must be in our Tsunagaker. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Minato and the others behind him were all shocked. Seeing this, Rasa rolled his eyes at the Konoha group in front of him and said. Are you worried that I will attack you? Even if that's the case, are you 4-Kage afraid of me alone? Minato was stunned for a moment, then smiled wryly. To be honest, he really wasn't sure how strong Rasa was now, but since Rasa had said so, he could only reply. I personally agree, but I can't answer for the other Kage. I need to communicate with them. Then I'll wait for your results. And then there's the second request. The 5-Kage Summit is too stingy for me, so this time, I hope the 5-Kage Summit will become a 5-Nation Summit. 5-Nation Summit. This shocked everyone in the Konoha group. Minato was even more puzzled and asked. Kazekage, what do you mean? Our Sunagaker is very hospitable. So, it seems a little stingy if only the Kage of the 5 great ninja villages come as guests. Therefore, I hope that this 5-Nation Summit can invite the heads of the various families of the 5 great ninja villages, the leaders of the great merchants, and anyone who wants to come to our Sunagaker as guests. Our Sunagaker welcomes everyone. In addition, we can send invitations to the leaders and merchants of those small countries who are willing to come. Finally, I hope that the daimyo of the 5 great countries can also participate. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. This time, the Konoha group was completely shocked. Minato thought of the recent series of changes in Sunagaker and understood the ambition hidden in Rasa's words. As for the time, let's make it a month from now. I understand. Since Kazekage-sama is so hospitable, it would be a bit unreasonable for me to refuse. However, as before, I can only represent Konoha in agreeing. As for the others, I still need the opinions of the other Kage, especially the daimyo. I understand, then I will wait for good news. Wind Country, Sunagaker. More than a month passed in a flash, and Sunagaker had completely recovered. Centered around the former Sunagaker, countless new-style buildings, courtyards, parks, and buildings of various styles were neatly arranged on the plains bombed out by the tailed beast ball, and in the farther distance, countless buildings were still under construction. Walking through the streets of Sunagaker, one could see people with excited smiles on their faces everywhere. Among them were the local people of Sunagaker, as well as merchants and workers from outside. The reason why these merchants were happy was simple, because during this period, not to mention the profits earned from contracting to build various construction sites, it made them a lot of money. All kinds of goods brought from outside to Sunagaker could also be easily sold in Sunagaker and exchanged for real money. It can be said that these merchants were simply picking up money during this period. They never realized that money could be so easy to earn. As for the workers, as ordinary people, in such a chaotic world, having a stable job, not having to starve to death, and being able to save a small amount of money was already a blessing from God. Many people had even chosen to settle in Sunagaker, causing the population of Sunagaker to begin to grow rapidly. As for the local people of Sunagaker, it was because, in addition to the large number of people coming to Sunagaker, which allowed them to find jobs and opportunities to make a lot of money, on the other hand, they received a windfall. Because the village leaders had issued an order that the area where Sunagaker was originally located would be transformed into the city center of Sunagaker in the future, which meant that the villagers who originally lived here would have to move to the new residential area outside the original Sunagaker. Logically speaking, in a special military organization like Sunagaker, as long as the village issued an order, these villagers would have to move obediently, but what surprised the local villagers of Sunagaker was that the Kazekage-sama gave them compensation. 2 brand new houses with the original area specifications plus a portion of compensation. This made the villagers of Sunagaker make a fortune all of a sudden. Although so many years of war had prevented the villagers of Sunagaker from starting to spend recklessly, it still brought prosperity to the entire trade of Sunagaker. Especially after the high-level officials of Sunagaker ordered the complete lifting of the curfew. In the past month or so, every night in Sunagaker was as bright as day and extremely lively. Countless shops would not close until 1 or 2 in the morning. Most of these shops were mainly opened by local residents of Sunagaker, supplemented by foreign merchants and new immigrants, which brought a very positive economic operation to Sunagaker. That is, the construction of the village has brought a large number of foreign population. The arrival of the foreign population has triggered the prosperity of Sunagaker's business. The prosperity of Sunagaker's business has attracted more people to settle down, and more people settling down has promoted the construction of Sunagaker. In this process, the only thing that is under pressure is Sunagaker's finances. Because in the entire operation process of this development and construction, Sunagaker spent a lot of real money as the initial capital and maintenance funds for this economic construction. This caused Sunagaker's military expenditure and various materials accumulated over the past year or so, which were expected to last for 10 years, to be consumed at a rate like snowflakes. Even Rasa, as the Kazekage, had to pan for some gold from the desert with sand gold to supplement the village's finances. This was still the result of Rasa's early anticipation, buying land in exchange for some money, and handing over many development projects to the forces behind Yekora and Mikawa in the village to develop, which alleviated some of the financial pressure. However, Rasa believed that this problem would soon be greatly alleviated, because after a month, the Ryusa River was finally completed. Sunagakur. The sky was slightly bright, and the entire Sunagakur had already become lively. Looking down from the sky, you can see that the streets are full of dense crowds, all heading in one direction. That is the end of the former Sunagakur, which was now bombed out by the tailed beast ball and transformed by the village into the Ritsudo Lake, named after the first Kazekage. Unlike more than a month ago, Sunagakur at this time had completely turned into an oasis. Green vegetation in Sunagakur is no longer just a miracle that occasionally appears in some places, but has covered all parts of Sunagakur, turning the entire Sunagakur into a village wrapped in green, which also allows many creatures in the desert to settle here, making Sunagakur full of life. In the hearts of the vast majority of Sunagakur villagers and outsiders, all these changes come from the powerful ninjutsu of the Kazekage-sama, but only a few people know that it is just the changes brought about by the mysterious power emanating from the miracle land called Dragon Oasis. Around Ritsudo Lake, because it is not suitable for people to live in, it has been transformed into a park. At this time, it was already surrounded by all kinds of people. Everyone is waiting for a new miracle to appear. Although the appearance of green plants has made Sunagakur no longer the barren and dried place it used to be, the lack of water is still the biggest problem here. However, after today, this problem will be solved. Although seawater is undrinkable, under the circumstances that the climate around Sunagakur has greatly changed, the rainwater brought by the evaporation of seawater by the sun will still completely change the problem of water shortage in Sunagakur. Of course, the other section of the Ryusa River built from the Ghost Country to Sunagakur will bring an inexhaustible supply of fresh water. And today is the time to open the gate of the Ryusa River to release water. Looking down from the sky, you can see that the already built Ryusa River channel has long been filled with seawater gathered from the distant sea, and both sides of the river channel are full of various crowds. They are standing in the shade of trees made by people, looking forward to the moment of opening the gate to release water. At the intersection where the Ryusa River connects to Ritsudo Lake, the huge river channel is divided into 5 small river channels. Each river channel has a huge sluice gate standing there. In addition to this, there are buildings. This is a newly established department in Sunagakur, Sunagakur Maritime Management Department. The people of Sunagakur also know that this is the department that the village will set up next to manage the Ryusa River. There are a total of 2 such buildings, one at the junction of the Ryusa River and the sea. All ships entering the Ryusa River must pass the inspection of Sunagakur before they can enter the Ryusa River, and then at the Maritime Management Department where the Ryusa River and Sunagakur meet, they will pay 10% of the total price of the goods transported by the ship before they will be allowed to enter Sunagakur. Although the high tax rate of 10% makes the merchants feel a little distressed, everyone still dares not have any opinions. Because, compared to this 10% tax, the appearance of the Ryusa River, the remaining freight is also a considerable amount. And at this moment, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the person who brought all these changes to Sunagakur, the Kazekage of Sunagakur, Rasa appeared, making everyone present feel awe and respect. Without any extra nonsense, after Rasa appeared, there were only 2 words. Open the gate. Rumble. In a roar that shocked everyone, the 5 sluice gates were opened, and the seawater, like a roaring beast, poured into Lake Litu, the resulting water mist spreading over the banks of the river, so that everyone could smell the fishy scent of the seawater, and even see some fish. After the initial shock, everyone in Sunagakur cheered happily, and the merchants couldn't wait for a result. Soon, the answer came. As a newly promoted high-level ninja in Sunagakur, Jingu, who was in charge of the entire Quicksand River construction project, stepped forward. Reporting to the Kazekage-sama, the sluice gate water injection work is proceeding normally. It is estimated that in 36 hours, the seawater will fill the entire Lake Litu. Lake Litu is not small, with a diameter of 15 kilometers and a maximum depth of 2 to 300 meters. It is not an easy task to fill it. Well, let people keep a close eye on it, and report any problems in a timely manner. Understood. This is the benefit of having supernatural powers. No matter what problems arise with the quicksand river, Rasa and the village ninjas can quickly make up for and solve them with jutsu. Seeing that everything was going normally, Rasa didn't stay here any longer and returned to the Kazekage building. The others followed. Of course, Chiyo, Ebizo, Yekora, Mikawa, were not here. The four of them are now elders and have long lost interest in these matters of the village, and are diligently cultivating in the Dragon Oasis. In addition to Maki, Jingu, Mishima, Ryuji, Iris, and Yakushimaru, who had followed him, there were also two newcomers and an old man. The two newcomers were named Kamata and Shi. Kamata is a busty young female ninja, recommended by Yekora, to take over the mundane affairs of Yekora in the village. She is a man with the representative attire of the Sand Clan, wearing a robe and with paint on his face. The reason for his appearance here is obvious. Both of them are considered outstanding among the younger generation in the village. Of course, only for ordinary people, neither of them has secret techniques, nor do they have Kekkei Genkei. However, both of them are loyal to the village and have excellent work ability. It seems that Yekora and Mikawa also know Rasa's character, and know that for the current Sunagaker, the most important thing is stability. In addition to the two of them, there was also a person recommended by Yekora, which surprised Rasa somewhat. That is the ninja Yekora found to be responsible for researching the technology of the Angkor cave of the Sky Ninja Village. His name is Hyakuzu. Yes, it is Hyakuzu who will betray Sunagaker in the plot and travel through the Dragon Vein Chakra to become an Lushan. However, the current Hyakuzu is just a budding commoner ninja who has shown talent in the development of puppet techniques, and is loyal to Sunagaker. As for the other old man, he is a spy from Konoha, Nono. As Karura's belly grew bigger and bigger, Rasa was not at ease letting her continue working in the orphanage. So, Nono became the director of the orphanage as a matter of course. And because of her excellent performance, Rasa also handed over the work of logistics, pensions, and demolition compensation in the village to her. Although it is a bit strange to let a spy and a person who may betray the village in the future be responsible for such important matters, their abilities have conquered Rasa. Nano's patience, meticulousness, and gentle personality make her more suitable for the current job than anyone else. Not to mention Hyakuzu's talent, being able to develop a unique puppet technique with the Dragon Vein Chakra is enough to show his talent in research. Anyway, now that the future has changed, Rasa completely trusts them and entrusts them with important tasks. Seeing that everyone had arrived at this moment, Rasa didn't waste any time. How are you all preparing for the 5-Cage Summit to be held in our Sunagaker this time? This 5-Cage Summit is a very good opportunity for Sunagaker to show itself. As long as Sunagaker completely demonstrates its attractiveness to the 5 great powers this time, then Sunagaker's future development will not have to worry about it at all. Don't worry, Kazekage-sama, we have already ordered it, and everyone is ready, just waiting for the 5-Cage Summit in 10 days. It was Jingu who spoke. As Rasa's assistant, as she became more and more familiar with Sunagaker, she had completely become one of the new high-level ninjas in Sunagaker after the 4 elders and Maki, and had initially achieved Rasa's original expectation, turning the internal structure of Sunagaker from 2 factions side by side into a 3-legged situation. If Mikawa represents the noble faction of Sunagaker, and Yekora represents the commoner faction of Sunagaker, then Jingu now represents the immigrants and the non-ninja faction among the commoners. In a military institution like a ninja village, commoners without ninjas in their families belong to the bottom of the bottom. Even a commoner faction like Yekora would not pay attention to these families. Because if you can't become a ninja, it means you have no value to use and win over. But Rasa wants to develop Sunagaker. The power of ninjas is certainly important, but these bottom-level people are also indispensable. Especially in the past year or so, after more and more immigrants have moved to Sunagaker. And now, in order to develop the village, it is necessary to get rid of ninjas, this single source of military expenditure, and pay attention to the commercial and economic development of the village, these commoners are even more important. Therefore, Jingu became their representative. In fact, if we look at the authority of management and the number of people alone, Jingu has surpassed Yekora and Mikawa, but the two major factions behind Yekora and Mikawa do not have much objection. The reason? Still, in the eyes of them as ninjas, no matter how large the number of ordinary commoners is, it cannot affect their interests. The ninja village is still a village belonging to ninjas. Rasa did not have the idea of breaking this concept. Because, although it is not good to hear, but in this world, ninjas are the real protagonists. For the village, the power of ninjas is the foundation of Tsunagaku's existence, and only this concept of hierarchy can support the entire Tsunagaku's benign upward development. Of course, there is another reason, that is, Rasa's distribution of benefits, so that they are also well fed. Well, thank you for your hard work, Jingu. Tell everyone that I have already placed the opportunity to make money in front of them this time. How much they can earn depends on their own ability. I understand, Kazekage-sama. Are there any other questions? This time everyone spoke up and expressed the same meaning. That is, with the straight line growth of Tsunagaku's population, whether it is the ninja school, medical department, ninja hospital, orphanage, or logistics, the original plans are no longer sufficient to support the current reality. How many people are there in the village now? It was Ryuji, the head of the logistics department, who answered, and he said with some shock on his face. Reporting to Kazekage-sama, according to the latest statistics, the number of registered villagers in our Tsunagaku has increased from 100,000 a year ago to 130,000 now. This is only the registered number. If we count the foreign merchants and workers who work and live in our village, this number should be around 170,000. So many. This time Rasa was really surprised. In other words, in the 1 year that Rasa has been in charge of Tsunagaku, the number of villagers in Tsunagaku has actually doubled. Fortunately, in the world of ninjas, immigration doesn't have any ethnic issues, otherwise, Rasa would really be a little worried. But now, there is only joy. Yes, Lord Kazekage, especially in the past month, hundreds of people have come to our Tsunagaku to make a living every day, and it's increasing day by day. I think after the quicksand river is open to navigation, the population will only increase. Our logistics department is almost unable to handle it. The Minister of Education, Mishima, also said. Lord Kazekage, the same is true for the ninja school. Although the ninja school has already undergone a round of expansion, the number of new students this year still far exceeds expectations, reaching 800 people, which has exceeded our capacity. Looks like, the three of you are too. Rasa turned to look at Iris, Yakushimaru, and Nanoyu. The three of them nodded. I understand. In that case, continue to give me a plan. Recruit people who should be recruited, and expand what should be expanded. This time, be as bold as possible. For example, the ninja school should be designed to accommodate 10,000 students. Moreover, it doesn't necessarily have to be just one. Now that the village has grown, one school and one hospital are definitely not enough. You don't have to worry about money. Once the quicksand river is open to navigation, the financial pressure will be much less. Yes, sir. Finally, you must remember that everything you do must prioritize the interests of the Tsunagaku villagers on the basis of fairness, understand? Understood. Dash 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 dash. 3 days passed quickly. With the continuous injection of seawater into the quicksand river, the water level of Lake Reto continued to rise at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally reached the predetermined water level after 3 days, which meant that the entire waterway was opened. However, this does not mean that the waterway can be directly put into use. For safety reasons and to allow the Tsunagaku Maritime Affairs Department to familiarize itself with the operation, the waterway will still undergo a period of trial operation for the next 5 days. However, even during the trial operation, the number of ships applying has already exceeded 100. Most of them are merchant ships, and a small number are workers who come to Tsunagaku to find work and civilians who want to move to Tsunagaku. Don't look at the fact that the ninjas outside are still relatively calm and there is no continued outbreak of war, but the 3 shinobi world wars have already made ordinary people in the entire shinobi world panic. They all hope to find a place to live and settle down. Obviously, the 5 major ninja villages belonging to the 5 great powers are the best choice, because they have the military power to protect themselves. And among these 5 major ninja villages, Sunagakure is the best choice. First, the current Sunagakure is the most stable village in the entire ninja world. According to the current saying circulating in the ninja world, as long as the 4th Kazekage of Sunagakure does not have any problems, then, at least in the next few decades, Sunagakure can be in a state of peaceful development. Don't forget, this young Kazekage is only 25 years old now, and he can maintain his peak for at least 30 years. Secondly, since Rasa set the development strategy for Sunagakure a year ago, Sunagakure has adhered to the policy of opening up to the outside world, and this opening up is constantly increasing. Until now, as long as foreign residents who come to Sunagakure have a guarantor, they can enter Sunagakure to find work and life after simple registration. This is an advantage that the other 4 major ninja villages cannot compare with at all. Although this may lead to an increase in external spies, just like the reason mentioned earlier, as long as that Kazekage is in Sunagakure, there will be no chaos in Sunagakure. And recently, the news that the 5-Kage Summit will be held in Sunagakure has further confirmed all of this. At that time, Sunagakure will become the center of the entire ninja world. According to hearsay, not only the 5 major ninja villages, but even the 5 daimyos of the 5 great powers will also come to Sunagakure at that time. This made both the people of Sunagakure and the merchants from outside realize that this may be an unprecedented event in the entire ninja world, so they all rubbed their fists and palms, prepared everything, and looked forward to the arrival of this event. Sunagakure, Dragon Oasis. Next to Chiyo's laboratory, in a separate training ground. Yahiko, who had completed the transplantation of the Sharingan and would release cells, was fighting against Nagato. Rasa, Chiyo, Hinoka, Hanataba, and Conan were watching from the side. The results of the experiment were very successful. Yahiko did not experience any adverse reactions after the transplantation. On the training ground, Yahiko's 2-3 Tomo Sharingan in his eyes quickly rotated, and at the same time, he formed hand seals, and wood release came easily. This is not because Yahiko's physique is special and he can easily adapt to the power of the Sharingan and wood release, but because the wood release cells transplanted into Yahiko this time are not Hashirama's original cells, because Hashirama's original cells were absorbed and died when Rasa obtained them from Danzo. As for the Sharingan and Hashirama cells taken from Danzo in the future world, Rasa did not dare to take them out for safety reasons. Therefore, what is now transplanted into Yahiko's body is the white Zetsu cells that were originally parasitized on the Cloud Ninja using the spore technique. Compared to the invasiveness of Hashirama's cells, the cells of white Zetsu are much milder. However, the life intensity of white Zetsu cells is weaker. The extent to which wood release is used may not even be comparable to Yamato, so Rasa generously contributed his own cells. Rasa was just trying it out. After all, in order for Hinoka to be successfully transplanted next, everything must be tried. It's just that I didn't expect that after the Sharingan, white Zetsu cells, and Rasa cells were fused, they actually reached a perfect balance. Not only did they strengthen the white Zetsu cells, reaching a level close to Hashirama's cells, but the pupil power of the Sharingan was also evolved. This allowed Yahiko to directly evolve from the strength of a Jonin to the level of a Kage. The only regret is that because he does not have the Uchiha clan's bloodline, Yahiko can only use the 3 Tomo Sharingan, because the evolution of the Sharingan requires a unique chakra produced by the Uchiha bloodline under emotional stimulation to promote the growth of pupil power. And Rasa has really not touched the Uchiha clan much until now, so the Uchiha bloodline is out of the question. This led to the fact that although Elder Chiyo could clone the Sharingan, she could only clone the Sharingan that had not been opened. This led to the failure of Rasa's Sharingan wholesale plan. Of the 5 Sharingan obtained from Danzo, only 3 are left. However, from the current point of view, everything is worth it. On the training ground, after these few days of familiarization, Yahiko has completely mastered these 2 new powers. Feeling this unprecedented powerful power, he is even more grateful to Rasa. After a while, Yahiko and Nagato's training ended, and the two came to the crowd. Yahiko excitedly said to Conan, "Conan, I finally have the power to protect you." Conan's face turned red all of a sudden, and Nagato's face also showed a smile. Everyone pretended not to see the two of them showing affection, and Chiyo directly said, "Looks like, kid, you're adapting well. Next, it's up to you to develop these 2 powers to what extent." Yahiko was also very grateful to Granny Chiyo, who had a sharp tongue but a kind heart, and bowed deeply. "Thank you, Granny Chiyo, I will definitely live up to this power." "HMPH, that's your business. Hinoka and Hanataba, come with me, and the others don't disturb this old woman." After Chiyo left with Hinoka and the bouquet, only Rasa and the Akatsuki trio remained. "Come take a walk with me." "Okay." By this time, Yahiko's transplant experiment had succeeded, and the 3 knew that Rasa was about to get to the main topic. Under Rasa's lead, the group returned to the village. Back in the Kazekage's office, Rasa spoke directly. "You should have seen it when you came over, right?" Yahiko nodded excitedly. The huge changes that had taken place in Sunagakure in just over half a month once again shocked the 3 present. The vast, shimmering lake, with various ships sailing on it, gave the 3 a huge shock. Especially the bustling scene of people moving goods at the various docks by the lake, made them feel the vigorous vitality within the current Sunagakure. This was a lively scene that the 3 from the Land of Rain had never seen before. They had reason to believe that such a prosperous place could probably not be found in the entire ninja world. Rasa nodded and once again said something that shocked the 3. "Now our Sunagakure's Lake Redo and Ryusa River have been put into use. Although it is still in the trial voyage stage, do you know how much money the Maritime Affairs Department's tax revenue alone is every day in these 3 days?" The 3 shook their heads, and then they heard an incredibly shocking number. 400 million ryo on the first day, 200 million ryo on the second day, and today's has not yet been reported, but according to speculation, it should not be less than 300 million ryo. Do you know what this means? In incredible shock, Yahiko, as the leader, immediately thought of what Rasa had said to them when they first met, about the ninja village's dependence on the daimyo. It means that Sunagakure will no longer need to rely on the Land of Wind daimyo's military spending from now on. Rasa nodded in satisfaction. That's right. In addition, so many goods flowing into Sunagakure will bring prosperity to Sunagakure's trade. By then, everyone will be able to make money, and everyone's life will be happy. At this moment, Yahiko seemed to finally understand what the peace he had once pursued was all about. It was not to humbly beg the 5 great powers to stop the war, but to make the people of his own country rich. And then, Rasa said his real purpose. Now that Lake Redo has been put into use, and the first phase of the Ryusa River project has also ended, the second phase will connect Sunagakure and the capital of the Land of Demons. Because the environment of the Land of Demons is more complicated, unlike the Land of Wind, where construction will not encounter obstacles, this process will be a bit slower, but in my estimation, 5 months will be the limit. And next, is the third phase of the Ryusa River project that I have planned, connecting Sunagakure and Omegakure. At this moment, the eyes of the 3 people present lit up, and at the same time, they felt a sense of urgency in their hearts. Yes, I think you have also understood that next, you only have 5 months to solve Hanzo and obtain the rule of Omegakure, otherwise, I will move the third phase of the Ryusa River project to another country. Conan was a little nervous. After all, that was the demigod who had once deterred the entire ninja world. However, Yahiko and Nagato looked at each other at this moment, both with firm eyes, and without the hesitation they once had. Kazekage-sama, please rest assured, I will not let Hanzo live until that time. Okay. Rasa nodded in satisfaction, and at the same time comforted them. I believe in you. With the power you two now possess, one mastering the Sharingan and would release, and the other possessing the Rinnegan and the Uzumaki clan's physique. Solving Hanzo is not a difficult task. The troublesome thing is what comes after. You don't have the experience of ruling a country or a ninja village, so I plan to arrange some things for you next to let you learn. The three did not refuse. Please give your orders, Kazekage-sama. Okay. Come in, you guys. As soon as Rasa's voice fell, 12 masked ninjas walked in from outside the house. Rasa introduced them. They were established by me, drawn from the Anbu, a team specializing in carrying out special missions. I call it the Covert Ops Squad. There are a total of 12 people in front of you, but I have other arrangements for them in the future, so new candidates must be found for all members of the Covert Ops Squad. Rasa gave Yahiko so many benefits, certainly not out of pure kindness. His purpose was very simple. He wanted to expand the Covert Ops Squad and make it an organization like the Anbu. Because the Anbu's several mistakes made him too dissatisfied. Although, to some extent, it can't be blamed on Maki and the Anbu. After all, their enemy is Uchiha Madara, but Rasa can't sit idly by and watch such a big loophole in the village for this reason. Therefore, he needs a subordinate with strong power to take on this responsibility. The current Yahiko is a very good candidate. Trustworthy in character, ability, and power, and without any power struggles in the village, he can completely obey his orders. Next, you will follow these 12 people and study hard. I will have them hand over to you some things about the Covert Ops Squad and the Anbu. When the time comes, Yahiko, I will hand over the Covert Ops Squad to you. Nagato and Conan, you can use this experience to go back and manage a Megakure. The three of Yahiko nodded. This was indeed a good choice for them. Because the three of them understood that from the moment they were rescued by Rasa, the three of them were completely tied to Sunagakure. It would only be beneficial and not harmful to the future Megakure if Yahiko could become Rasa's confidant. As for the arrangement for these 12 people, Rasa certainly wouldn't treat them badly. They were all sent out to guard one side. Among them, Daikoku, Sekyu, and Arekishi were sent out to guard the Land of Demons, becoming the Jonin leaders responsible for protecting the Land of Demons. Reiha and Fujin, Sazori and Seagulls were sent to the Island of Summoning, becoming the Jonin leaders guarding the Island of Summoning. Yumaniko and Mamushi have become the Jonin leaders responsible for protecting the first section of the Ryusa River, which has now been successfully built. Nezumi, Kurori, and Akatsuki are the Jonin leaders responsible for the construction and protection of the second section of the Ryusa River in the Land of Demons next. The Land of Demons is not the Land of Wind after all, especially after the huge benefits of the first stage of success are revealed, there will definitely be a lot of trouble in the future. Rasa is not worried about big troubles, but he hates those monsters and ghosts. It is enough to let them handle these things with their Jonin strength. However, for the sake of insurance, in addition to letting these 12 people choose the summoning beasts that suited them, Rasa also made them the first recipients of the Sage Art curses. That's right, perhaps the time has finally come to reap the rewards. After a period of experimentation, the Sage Art curse seal has finally been successful. Okay, there are still 10 days before the 5-Cage Summit is about to begin. At that time, in addition to the Anbu, the Covert Ops Squad will also be responsible for the safety of the entire village. In addition, in order to prevent those daimyo from feeling bored, the Ninja Academy will hold a ninja exam. I will leave this matter to you. This is also considered a training for you. Originally, Rasa didn't have any intention of holding a ninja exam. Firstly, although it was somewhat embarrassing, the Hidden Sand Village didn't have many talented young ninjas to show off. Among the 5 great ninja villages, the Hidden Sand Village was known for its lack of talent. Even though Rasa had supplemented the ranks through various means, it would take 4 or 5 years for the results to fully materialize. Secondly, Rasa didn't want to create unnecessary trouble. Holding a ninja exam sounded easy, but it was a major event that affected the entire village, requiring significant investment of manpower and resources. However, in the end, Rasa had no choice but to agree. One reason was that when he wanted to invite the daimyo of the Wind Country to visit the Hidden Sand Village, the daimyo agreed, but the daimyo's office made a request: the Hidden Sand Village had to give the daimyo a reason worthy of his status and presence. After all, from the perspective of superficial hierarchical order, Rasa was still only a vassal of the daimyo. As the daimyo, he couldn't lower his status simply because of a request from a vassal. Another reason was that after the success of the Sage Art Cursed Seal, Rasa planned to start experimenting on the ninjas of the Hidden Sand Village, especially the children in the Ninja Academy. However, although the Sage Art Cursed Seal had been successfully tested, not everyone was suitable for inoculation. In order to select suitable candidates, Rasa agreed to hold the ninja exam. Hidden Sand Village, Ninja Academy. As a year passed, Kunimi, Sarah, and Maki grew older and became second-year students at the Ninja Academy. As second-generation ninjas of the Hidden Sand Village, Kunimi and Sarah had natural talent and early exposure to ninjutsu training, which allowed them to immediately become top students in their class and even the entire grade when they started learning about chakra in the second year. Even Maki, a commoner girl, caught up with the two with their help, forming a famous trio in the entire school. Of course, there were many children in the class who wanted to challenge them, but the difference in strength led to their repeated failures. Just as these children were unwilling and envious of the talent and abilities of others, the arrival of a piece of news excited the entire school. In the huge classroom, at this moment, all the children were sitting in their seats with excitement on their faces, looking expectantly at the direction of the classroom door. Soon, the classroom door was pushed open, and a middle-aged man with paint on his face, who looked very strict, walked in. He was the second-year teacher, Darren. Seeing the expectant eyes of these children, Darren nodded and didn't waste any words. "All right, seeing how excited you all are, I won't waste any time," Darren said, taking out a folder, looking at it, and then raising his head to say, "I think you should have heard some news from your parents. That's right, in 10 days, on the third day of our Hidden Sand Village's 5Kage Summit, we will hold a Desert Flower Ninja Selection Exam." Wow! The whole classroom became lively all of a sudden. "Quiet, it's not too late to make noise after I finish speaking." Darren then talked about the arrangements for the exam. This ninja selection exam is very simple. The competition is divided into 4 stages. All students of the Ninja Academy are eligible to participate, including your newly enrolled freshmen. However, don't underestimate this competition because of this. I can clearly tell you that you must strive for good rankings in this ninja exam, because this is a great opportunity for you to change your destiny. In addition, the final winner will also have the opportunity to be personally taught by Lord Kazekage and become Lord Kazekage's student. I don't think I need to tell you little brats what this represents, right? In this chaotic ninja world, children are relatively precocious. After hearing the teacher say that there was a chance to become a disciple of Lord Kazekage, everyone became envious. That was Lord Kazekage. The current Rasa is like a god to every villager in the Hidden Sand Village. Even Kunimi, who had always been calm, widened his eyes all of a sudden. Seeing the excited look of the students, Darren also nodded, feeling a little envious of these children's good luck. Why didn't he encounter such a good thing when he was in school? Alright, I'll talk about the specific schedule. This competition is divided into 4 days, which are 4 stages, lasting 30 days. The first stage is called Desert Assessment. This stage assesses your physical fitness and willpower. You need to travel 50 kilometers within 24 hours to reach the designated competition point for the second day. Don't think this is easy, because you will be crossing the scorching and barren desert. You will encounter various tests, which will not be easy even for those senior students. The second stage is called Courage Assessment. You will be teleported to a place called Tongling Island, where you will undergo special tests. You will know the specific assessment content when you arrive. Only those who pass the test can enter the third stage. The second stage lasts for 7 days. The third stage is called Ninja Power Assessment. After the second stage, you can rest for 3 days. After 3 days, the Ninja Power Assessment will begin. At that time, the village will group you according to your grade, divided into 2 groups, grades 123 and grades 456, and then conduct actual combat to select the final winner. Normally, the competition would end after the third stage, but in fact, there is a final stage. That is, after the third stage, you can rest for half a month. Half a month later, the best of your age from the other 4 great ninja villages will also come to our hidden sand village. Now the students present understood what the teacher meant. It seems that I don't need to say more. You will compete with the younger generation of other villages at that time, and only those who perform well in this 4th stage will have the opportunity to become a disciple of Lord Kazekage. Quote. The whole classroom instantly became quiet, and the eyes of all the children were filled with tension and anticipation. All right, that's all I can tell you. Next, you can only rely on yourselves. For this reason, the school has made an exception to allow you to freely arrange the next 10 days. It doesn't matter even if you don't go to school. You can do everything you can to prepare for this ninja exam. Now, class dismissed. Darren left the classroom very simply, and then the whole classroom became noisy. It feels so exciting. I must become the winner and become a disciple of Lord Kazekage. But we have to compete with the third-year seniors who are older than us. I'm not afraid. It's just a year older than us. Yeah, the winner in our class must be Kunimi. This guy is too strong. We are not opponents at all. All of a sudden, everyone's eyes looked at Kunimi in the front row. Feeling the gazes of so many people, Kunimi could still remain calm, but Sarah and Maki had already nodded excitedly. But at this moment, a weak voice sounded. Not necessarily. Didn't you notice the strangeness in the teacher's words just now? For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.